Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea. It is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, gather around the virtual water cooler with us as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good things. And speaking of Han-like triumphant returns, it is the return of one Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, I can tell you that I'm doing absolutely fine.
Oh, sorry. I think I had your volume there.
Yeah, well, as you can see, I'm supporting my man, and I do not. People have asked us. They've said that you and John Campea are directly responsible for the return of Han Solo in the Fast saga, and I want to just state for the record, John, I absolutely believe that is true. I think you and I in this show, I mean, even though you've been on the wrong side of the issue all the time.
Hashtag Han had it coming.
Apparently he did not, and we have emerged. Well, I've emerged triumphant.
We're going to talk about that. We are going to definitely talk about the Fast 9 trailer and the implications of what we saw in that trailer, what it all could mean. We're going to talk about, of course, Owen Wilson has been added to the cast of Loki. We're going to talk about a record-breaking, in all the wrong ways, performance of the Blake Lively film Rhythm Section, unfortunately. Why don't TV actors get mentioned in the conversations of the greatest actors of all time and things like that? We're going to talk about that. And of course, we're going to talk about a few other things as well. But before we get to anything else, the very first thing we're going to go off the top with is this. There was, of course, the Super Bowl yesterday, which, by the way, absolutely fabulous game and absolutely fabulous halftime show.
Yeah.
So, oh my God, that was absolutely incredible. But of course, every year we tune into the Super Bowl, also looking forward to the commercials and in particular trailers that we may see. We as movie fans, we particularly look forward to seeing the trailers we're going to see. And of course, yesterday, Rob, one of the spots that they dropped was a 30-second spot highlighting the upcoming MCU shows on Disney Plus. And they started with, we'll go through some of the things here. Of course, we start, with that Captain America shield. There we see Sam kind of, whipping the shield around. We get the Marvel Studios logo, which transitions to blue, representing, of course, Disney Plus, because that's where it's at. Then we see this great shot of these guys, doing the skydiving and falling. We either got Falcon chasing them or running from them, not sure. We get this incredible badass scene of Sebastian Stan standing face to face with Zemo and like emptying out bullets from his gun, which was really good. But then, of course, really the part of this that got everybody talking was the WandaVision stuff.
Yeah. So
we see the WandaVision stuff transitioning through different periods, different television periods from old 50s and 60s to 70s and 80s, looking at the logo, stuff like that. That was really interesting. By the way, one of the shots in there, she's pregnant. We see Scarlet Witch is pregnant, and then there's even a shot where the two of them are standing in front of two cradles, which, of course, in the comic books, they have two children. What are their names again? Wiccan and... I don't remember. I can't remember the other one, but in the comics, they have two kids, but and the kids are directly responsible for the House of M stuff, but anyway, we'll go into that another time. And then, of course, one of the big things about it was Loki, the reveal of Loki. And of course, they just gave us a little bit of a taste of Loki. The most interesting thing about Loki, though, is it looks like he's in some kind of prison jumpsuit. He's got restraints on his hands, and he's got the letters TVA. Now, in the comics, there's an organization called the Time Variance Agency. I believe that's the name of it, Time Variance Agency, who are kind of like time cops. They kind of oversee and keep everything in the multiverse together. Yeah. So obviously, we've got Loki already jumping around through time and realities and things like that. So that could come into play here. Who knows what that's going to do. But I thought it was a really interesting 30-second spot. I wished it would have been longer because there's 3 shows they were highlighting. So I do wish it had been longer. But Rob, you had a chance to take a look at this. What did you think of the spot?
Well, I thought it was badass. I mean, first of all, all these shows have a cinematic look to them. I mean, I don't know about Loki because we basically got one shot. But WandaVision looks bonkers. You've got the gray vision. I don't know what that all means. But boy, do I think John, this is something interesting that we've never seen before. The fact that we have the Marvel Cinematic Universe already in the Infinity Saga and 23 movies, but now we're getting this they're doing these individual shows that tie into the MCU, and no one's ever done this before. There's never been an entertainment franchise that is going to make canonical TV shows that directly tie into their movie series. And people have wanted to do it. They talked about doing it over at Universal with The Dark Tower. Of course, there has been movies like the X-Files movies. Well, the first one especially did tie in to the TV series heavily, but not on an ongoing basis. So I think this is pretty exciting, and I think we're getting something, at least with WandaVision, that's a lot different than what we saw in the movies. So I'm pretty excited about all of this, and I think, again, it's probably a huge win for Kevin Feige and everybody over at Marvel.
I agree. So anyway, question is, guys, what did you guys think of that little spot? Granted, it was short. It was only 30 seconds, but it was really our first look at anything. And I got to tell you, well, nothing hugely revelatory other than like seeing the WandaVision stuff going through the different times. I found it quite exciting, so I liked what I saw. What did you guys think about it? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. One more thing off the top that we're going to cover before we get to our main topics, and that one other thing is this. We are, of course, in the heat of awards season. The Oscars are less than 1 week away. One, of course, of the big award shows that comes out every year is the BAFTA Awards. Of course, over in the UK, the big BAFTAs, it's the last big one before we go into the Oscars. And the BAFTAs were awarded yesterday, and Rob, no big surprises. Nope. As a matter of fact, it may actually it may have solidified exactly what we're going to see at the Oscars next week. Let's go over some of the winners here. Best film, no surprise, ended up being 1917. Best leading actress, again, no surprise, Renee Zellweger for Judy. Best lead actor, no surprise, Joaquin Phoenix for Joker. Best supporting actress, no surprise, Laura Dern for Marriage Story. Best supporting actor, no surprise, Brad Pitt, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Outstanding British film was named as 1917. Again, since it's won its overall thing, that's no surprise at all. Best film not in the English language, no surprise, was Parasite. Best animated film, Klaus is sweeping up all over the place. Has swept the Annie Awards. I still think the Oscar voters are going to go Toy Story 4, but you got to think that this is a possibility here now. Best director, no surprise, Sam Mendes, which I think is probably going to be going that way. A little bit of a surprise for best original screenplay was Parasite. I thought they might go Knives Out for that, but they went with Parasite. Best adapted screenplay, Jojo Rabbit by Taika Waititi. So Rob, look, especially when we look at the major categories, as we look at actor, actress, supporting actress, best picture, best director, it all seems to really be, we see the pattern now from all the different award shows really kind of lining up. Are we seeing here pretty much a blueprint for what we're going to see on the Oscars on Sunday, or could something really jump out of there and kind of change the ball game up?
No, I think we're absolutely seeing a blueprint. I think it's pretty much wrapped up. I would like to have seen, I always said The Irishman was the movie that really stuck with me the most. I mean, it's vision of mortality, but I think, 1917, even though I think the story is pretty straightforward and basic, the technique and the way it was presented was truly something we hadn't seen before. I mean, I know people talk about, well, Birdman did this kind of one, but the power and the horror of war was so well captured in 1917. I think if it wins the Oscar, it's absolutely deserving. And I think the same is true of Parasite. I know you're a big fan of Jojo Rabbit. And again, if you look at Jojo Rabbit, 1917, The Irishman, Parasite, these are some really great achievements in cinema. And I think this year was a particularly strong year. The performances, Judy, Marriage Story. I think that everybody who wins this year mostly was we, the audience.
Yeah, I agree. It was an incredibly powerful year. And I mean, we just look at that list and it really is. And Rob, I've been saying this about 2019. I don't even think we fully appreciate how good of a year it is yet. I think it's going to take 2 or 3 years from now that we're going to look back on 2019 and really go, understand really just how special the year was. It was really quite incredible. Question is for you guys. What do you think of the BAFTA award results? Do you think we pretty much now see the pattern and we've definitely got the blueprint for what we're going to get at the Oscars? Do you think the Oscars could take a left turn somewhere? Let us know what you guys think. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them by going anytime over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's totally free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's go on to main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted into us by Alan Valley, who writes, based on the award season so far, and we were just talking about the BAFTAs, it seems like all the acting Oscars are a lock, with Joaquin Phoenix for Best Actor, Renee Zellweger for Best Actress, Brad Pitt for Supporting Actor, and Laura Dern for Supporting Actress. If there is going to be an upset, which of these categories do you think it will most likely happen in? All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And listen, it's kind of funny that you're asking because we just kind of said we do believe we kind of see the blueprint, but it is an interesting question. If any of those 4 acting categories, and you're right, at this point, it is pretty much starting to look like it's an absolute lock. Joaquin Phoenix, Renee Zellweger, Laura Dern, Brad Pitt. It seems like it's a lock. But it is an interesting question to ask. If any of these were not going to win, if there is any one of them that there seems to be a potential upset in place for, which one would it be? And now, I do believe, like almost everybody else, that these ones are now a lock. However, Rob, I'm going to, now, for the record, I do think all 4 of these are going to be the winners. Just to be clear, I think all 4 of these are going to be the winners. Laura Dern's spot, irrefutable, not good. There is no upset here. There's no upset to be had here with the Laura Dern thing. She's going to win that. It's not 100% lock for Brad Pitt. So I won't say it's nearly as much of a lock as Laura Dern's. Renee Zellweger, more of a lock than Brad Pitt, maybe not quite as much of a lock as Laura Dern. I'll tell you, if any one of the 4 has any potential vulnerability, I actually think it's Joaquin Phoenix. And here's why. The reason I'm thinking Joaquin Phoenix, Rob, is because not because his performance wasn't fabulous and fantastic and totally worthy. It is. But the Academy members loved Adam Driver in Marriage Story.
Yeah, they did.
Loved him in Marriage Story. There's something very resonant about his performance in Marriage Story that kind of touches viewers exactly where they are, and there is a power in that. Again, let me be clear. I am not saying that Adam Driver deserves to win over Joaquin Phoenix, nor do I think he will. I think Joaquin deserves to win, and I think he will win. But if any of these 4 major acting categories, Rob, have any vulnerability at all, and it's not because of any weakness in their game, it's that Adam Driver one, because they love him in that. It's the kind of performance that they traditionally really like, although they obviously really like Joaquin's as well. So Joaquin will win, but I think if any one of those 4 doesn't, it's going to be Joaquin because there's a 15% chance he loses it to Adam Driver. Rob, we all know that these 4 have looked now like they're pretty much a lock, but if you had to guess, if any one of these 4 had the potential of an upset, which one do you think is the most likely to get upset?
I didn't think about this Joaquin Phoenix upset, but listening to you talk about it, I'm like, you're absolutely right, I think. Adam Driver is a very well-liked, well-respected actor. I've never heard a bad thing, said about him, despite the fact he might have walked out of an interview because they told him, he specifically asked them not to do something and they did something. So I think he was, in a way, I get why he did that. But I think his performances, I've always liked Adam Driver. He's an interesting looking guy. He brings a quality to everything that he's in that's unusual and unexpected. And he never delivers anything less than a stellar performance. I mean, I really liked him in Patterson, which was this quiet little movie that I recommend everybody should watch if you're an Adam Driver fan. And I think his performance in Marriage Story is one for the ages. So absolutely, I could see that happening. I don't see Renee Zellweger getting upset, but maybe, and this is again, I don't know, but they like Leonardo DiCaprio too.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see. I mean, he hasn't won any. I don't think he's won. Or did he win one? Did he win?
Revenant. He won for Revenant.
No, but I mean for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I know he hasn't really. It hasn't been. I could see that happening because again, Leo is an Academy favorite, but he's not in the mix. I think that they don't see his performance, even though I loved his performance in the film. I don't know if it's up to Adam Driver's level, but I could see it maybe happening.
But we pretty much think the other three are probably safer bets, right?
Yeah.
At this point. So I don't know, guys. What do you think? Do you think one of the other three performers might be a little bit more vulnerable than Joaquin? Do you agree with our assessment of this? How do you think about it? Which of these four has the biggest chance of maybe getting upset come Oscar Sunday this Sunday night? Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Arnold Smith, who writes, Paramount's new movie, The Rhythm Section, budgeted at $50 million, flopped with a $2.9 million opening this past weekend, according to Variety. If this holds, it will replace the movie Hoot as the worst opening weekend for a movie that played on 3,000 or more screens, according to Box Office Mojo. What are your thoughts on this being the latest flop for Paramount, and what the heck went wrong here with Rhythm Section? All right, thanks a lot for sending in your thoughts, man. And yes, look, there's no other way to put this. I am a Blake Lively fan. I like Blake Lively very much.
Me too.
And I was quite interested in this movie. Full disclosure, with everything else going on, I haven't had a chance to go see it. I also started hearing from people that they didn't like it that much. The critic reviews weren't fantastic, so I've delayed seeing it myself. But I've been looking forward to it because I love Blake Lively. There is no sugarcoating this, though. While this is not the worst opening weekend ever for any wide release film, for a film that's gotten at least 3,000 screens, this is the worst in history. This is what we get out of Box Office Mojo. Further down the list and just making its way into the top 10 is Paramount's The Rhythm Section. Signals heading into the weekend weren't positive, but this one fell short of even the most pessimistic of expectations, bringing in just $2.8 million for the weekend from 3,049 locations for a $918 per theater average, the worst opening ever for a film debuting in over 3,000 locations. The question that we then need to ask ourselves, and the question that will, of course, obviously come up is, and what they ask in the email, what the hell happened? How does this happen? What went wrong? And Rob, I gotta believe it comes down to one thing, and that is this. You and I talked about the trailer when the trailer hit, right? The trailer which hit just 1 month before the movie came out. Now, that's fine. I mean, we've seen the first John Wick had its first trailer come out 1 month before the movie came out, right? But I literally, and I can only speak for myself, I literally didn't see another single piece of advertising or marketing for this film at all.
Right.
And I had to go out of my way to watch it myself on YouTube. I didn't see it. Now, again, I'm only speaking from my experience, but I have not seen a single billboard, a single poster, a single in-theater trailer. I'm not saying they didn't play trailers in theaters. I'm just saying I haven't seen one myself. So other than that first time going and tracking it down, now look, The Rhythm Section is a type of movie that was never going to be a $300 million movie anyway. That's assumed. We understand that. But, Rob, I just got to go with the assumption that they didn't market this thing. They simply did not market it. They chose to not put any money into the marketing of this thing, They didn't raise any public awareness. You combine that with the fact of not really positive word of mouth. They held off the review embargo until the day before the film came out. I mean, there's a lot of things adding up, but the bottom line, I think if they gave this thing a proper marketing campaign, I still think it loses money, but it probably isn't the worst opening in history for any film over 3,000 screens. Rob, I know you're probably bummed out about this as well because we enjoyed, we both like Blake Lively, we like Jude Law, that we thought the trailer looked good at the time. But if you had to put your finger on anything that you kind of maybe feel is most directly responsible for this negatively record-breaking performance of this movie, what would you say it is?
Well, first thing, you're absolutely right. I mean, I was excited about this movie because it was produced by Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson, the producers
James
of
Bond team.
Yeah, now, I thought it was really interesting. They wanted to get involved in a franchise that had a female protagonist, and this is actually based on a pretty well-regarded series of novels. So it looked to me like they had a winner. And even when we were at CinemaCon, all they released at CinemaCon was the logo. They didn't even have any key art at the very end of the Paramount presentation. And I found that disappointing, but I think you're right. You would never know, one, this is based on a series of popular books. You didn't know this movie was even coming out. Blake Lively, even when she's in a movie like The Shallows, I mean, her films do well. Age of Adeline, I think, is one of the great unsung fantasy romances, maybe ever, that she was in, and she's just delightful. I love her as a screen presence. And nobody knew, Paramount's had a pretty bad string of movies this year, and maybe they just felt like they didn't want to throw good money after bad. I mean, I know this had some production issues. They had to halt production when Blake Lively was injured. And I also think part of the reason, Reed Morano, the director of this film, really does not have a lot of experience making a feature. She, of course, directed the pilot for The Handmaid's Tale, which was great. But most of her work she's been a cinematographer. And then they tapped her to direct this film. And I think, having not seen it myself, but I'm going to go see it, John, because I want to see what the Broccoli's are going to do. And this kind of movie appeals to me. But after reading these things, I think a lot of it comes down to the reason they didn't market the movie is because they knew the movie wasn't good enough to put money into. And they had contractual obligations. And I think, at some point you have to blame the filmmakers, and I think that first and foremost begins with the direction. And I think maybe Reed Morano was maybe out of her league making this film.
There's been some suggestion, and I don't normally give much to the idea of the titles, because a title's a title, whatever. But the title of a movie like this, Rhythm Section, right. I've seen a lot of people point to the fact that they would see the title Rhythm Section. They had no idea what the movie was because there wasn't much marketing for it, and they think it's about a high school drum line. Do you think the title might have had anything to do with it as well?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's all part of it, but then that goes down to marketing. I mean, The Rhythm Section was the title of the book, and it didn't say anywhere like from the explosive international bestseller by blah blah blah. They always usually do that. And this film, the marketing of it was even the trailer itself was murky. Like what's really going on in this movie? And apparently, the movie doesn't even deliver on a great action film either. It's this introspective, it's more of an introspective movie about a woman and her grief, and she tends to run away from the action rather than dive into it. And I think that all of these things are contributing factors to the not success of this film. And again, when a film doesn't succeed, especially if it's a literary adaptation, I take no pleasure in that. It does look like it was well made. I love the actress, and I wanted this movie to be good. So, and I'm still going to go see it.
All right, guys, question is for you. Unfortunately, Rhythm Section breaking records, all the wrong ones. Worst opening ever in cinematic history for a film that opened on at least 3,000 screens. What do you feel might be the main contributing factor? Was it like me? There was never any awareness brought up to it. They didn't do any marketing. Do you feel like some others do? It was a completely misleading title. They have no idea what they thought this movie was. Do you think there's something else involved? What do you guys attribute it to? Jump down to the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our third main topic today. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Big Tell, who writes, Hey, JC and Rob, he's back. Just saw the new F9 trailer, and it's justice for Han as he is in the movie. What's your thoughts on his return? And tell me, is Rob Ghibli right now? Someone was listening to you, boys. Thanks, and keep up the filthy. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, of course, the Fast 9 trailer dropped on Friday after the John Campea Show was done and off the air. And a lot of stuff for a first trailer. Now, before we get to the main event here, which is getting Rob's feelings in this trailer, let me just get this out of the way. 2 days before they launched the trailer, they put out like a 1-minute scene clip, right? Of Dom at home with his son, fixing cars with him, putting him to bed, them giving him the necklace, all that kind of stuff. And I loved it. I thought it was great. I even thought they were setting up some really dark foreboding. I think something bad happens to the kid because they give him that necklace. And then in the new trailer, you see Dom just gripping the necklace like in pain. And in the poster, the necklace is just hanging from his rear view mirror, not attached to the kid. And I'm like, this is like deeper stuff than I'm ever been. Let's just put it this way. I thought that 1-minute clip was deeper stuff than you or I are accustomed to seeing in a Fast and the Furious, of anything to do with Fast and the Furious. And I thought that 1-minute clip was great. Trailer comes out. I have mixed feelings about it. I have mixed feelings about it. Number one, let's talk about the return of Han. I am actually okay with the return of Han. Like with Rob, by the way, I want to point out to everybody here who may not remember, Robert Meyer Burnett on this very show months ago predicted that Fast and Furious 9 would see the return of Han. He predicted it. And I didn't think it would happen, but I thought that would actually be a pretty cool thing for them to do. So he's back. Here's my problem, though. And this is a problem I have, Rob, that may go away as we get closer to the movie. I remember watching that and going, why the hell are you showing that in the trailer? Why the hell are you showing the return of Han in the first trailer? Is that not something you would want to hold back until the movie comes out? Because, Rob, this is what I said, and I don't know if you'll agree with me on this or not. My initial thought on this was, imagine a crowd, an opening night movie crowd of Fast and Furious film fanatics in a theater. That moment that Han walks into a room, I said, a little bit of hyperbole, but follow me here. I said, I would liken the reaction in that theater unto the reaction the theater had when Mjolnir flew across the screen into Captain America's hands. I think that's the kind of reaction you would have got in that theater had they not spoiled it in the trailer. But then again, for all I know, Han is that happens in the first 15 minutes of the movie, and Han is actually a main character throughout the whole film. And if that's the case, then yeah, you put it in the trailers. And hey, it got everybody talking. It got everybody talking, and that's the job of a trailer. My other problem, though, is I have two other problems. One, you're never going to get me to believe that John Cena is Vin Diesel's brother. That's just not going to happen. So that aside. The other, of course, is we all understand that Fast and the Furious universe logic is not real world logic. We understand that, and that's fine. But they seem to be pushing the laws and rules of physics more and more and more and more, to the point that we just have to throw our hands in the air and go, we get it. It's just fucking ridiculous. Okay, we get it. Because the driving off the cliff and the magnet plane catching it, or don't worry about it. I know we're falling off a cliff. We've got this rope and it's going to swing us all the other side. I mean, I get it. They keep pushing it. And hey, listen, in Hobbs and Shaw, they had the $6 billion man. They had Cyborg, Idris Elba Cyborg in it. So, I mean, they keep pushing it. So whatever. It's just been getting more and more ridiculous. But Rob, you know, ever since Fast and Furious 4, I really like this film franchise. Ever since Fast and Furious 4, I've been a big fan of it. So anyway, those are my kind of thoughts on this. But Rob, the main event here is we've all been waiting to hear your reaction to the return of Han in this Fast 9 trailer. What did you think about it?
Well, first of all, I think you got to give it up to this franchise as far as the character of Han is concerned, because he died in Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. which really wasn't even, it was an adjunct movie that they didn't have any of the original characters in it. I mean, of course, Vin Diesel shows up at the very end. But for whatever reason, I loved Tokyo Drift. I thought the first two Fast and Furious movies were fine, but there was something about Tokyo Drift going to Japan. I love Japan. I love the character of Han. And most people don't know that the character of Han did not originate in Tokyo Drift. He's a character that was ported over from one of Justin Lin's first films, a movie called Better Luck Tomorrow. And that's where you first saw Sun Kang playing Han. So Justin Lin and him obviously are the best of friends, and he puts him in this movie. And then he dies. And then, of course, when Justin Lin directs Fast and Furious, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth movie, he makes them prequels so he can bring back Sun Kang to play Han again. And then we find out, of course, Deckard Shaw killed Han. And after Fast and Furious 7, first of all, this series has been becoming, like you just pointed out, increasingly more ludicrous as it's gone along. And I love Fast 5. I think Fast 5 is terrific. It's a great movie by any metric. But even that movie had these cars carrying this bank vault, this safe, and smashing through buildings. The physics on that, I'm like, I don't think that really would have worked. But I bought into it. I'm like, okay, it worked within the context of that movie. But then Fast 6 had the longest airplane runway in the history of airplane runways. And it really strained even my credulity. I'm willing to buy off on a lot of things. I love giant monster movies and all that. But even this movie, and then 7 and 8 spun off into oblivion. There was no, like you said, Fast and Furious logic really didn't exist until the end of Fast 6. But Fast 7 and 8 blew the doors off any semblance of any reality for this franchise. And I think it was kind of a mistake.
Come on, Rob, say the word. I know you're dying to say the word.
There's no verisimilitude.
There you go.
The Furious franchise. And it's so funny to say that, but that was one of the things all the way up to Fast 5 I was really with this franchise. But I love the character of Han. And he's never been foremost. He was best ever in Tokyo Drift. I mean, he was to me, he was peak Han in Tokyo Drift. And he was always a secondary character, but I really hated, John. I hated that they killed this character that I loved, and then they turned Jason Statham, who apparently, or did he not, but murdered Han, and then he becomes a part of the family. Like, oh, all is forgiven. And I'm hoping that, one, it really is Han. I don't want it to be his long-lost brother, his twin. I hope he's not a goddamn cyborg. Because I could see this. They already made, like you said, Idris Elba into the $6 million man. I think it is indeed Han. I think Han, the logic that I would assume that they're going to use is Han knew something was up. He was either in cahoots with Deckard Shaw, even though the Shaw brothers were bad dudes. I mean, these guys are stone cold. They murder people. So I don't know if I could really buy that they're in some kind of cahoots, but Han probably knew that Cypher was out there. Han knew something was going on, and he knew something like this would be coming, so he had a contingency plan. Maybe he was going to blow himself up. I don't know. But I think he's been laying low over Fast 7, Fast 8, and Hobbs and Shaw, waiting for his moment to return, and that moment is now. And I think, look, as I said, we take full credit. I love that the character's coming back. And the reason I said, I just didn't see Justin Lin directing a Fast and Furious movie without Han. And that's why I said months ago, I think, and by the way, I had no knowledge. Nobody told me anything about this movie. And I think he really is coming back because Justin Lin's like, I can't make a Fast and Furious movie without a character that I introduced to the franchise. And I think that it's great. And I love, man, dude, I was so Ghibli. I was editing on Crisis Medicine, and I'm sitting there literally editing next to my producer. She was editing with me on a different system. So we're there, and I was squealing like a little girl, and she had no idea about any of this. And I'm like, yeah, I was so Ghibli. I mean, I was just losing my shit next to a woman who's very serious. She's a lawyer, and she's like, "Are you okay? Like, is something wrong?" And I had to explain the whole thing to her, and she's like rolling her eyes at me. But I lost my shit. I've been Ghibli for days. I've got my Han displate, as I showed you. It was on my refrigerator, and I love this so much. And I had to move it to bring it onto the show again today. And I've got my radio controlled RX-8 Han's car. I think I'm going to have to break it out of its container and put some batteries in it and drive it around the neighborhood in celebration.
I'll tell you what, that brings up an interesting question, Rob, which is the question becomes, how is he back? Right?
Right.
And you were mentioning a couple of the possibilities that we've heard going around. Number one, there's a theory going around he's Han's twin brother.
I hope that's not true.
I hope it's not true as well. But that is one of the theories going around, because how is he in that explosion and still looks great with no burn marks or anything like that? It brings up a theory I have. When you go back to Hobbs and Shaw, the Idris Elba character was a character who was mortally wounded. Then this organization got him, fixed him to be better than perfect, made him superhuman, and now he looked good, he's all that kind of stuff, and they pulled him from the brink. Minor theory here. That ties in to Fast 9. That Han was recovered almost dead by this organization. He himself is now a cyborg, like Idris Elba was in Hobbs and Shaw. And he is, in fact, secretly going to be a villain in this movie, angered and pissed off at the fact that he's watched his family embrace the guy that they thought murdered him. That they embraced Jason Statham, and he's pissed off at that, and this evil organization has used that as to... I listen, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying that seems to be a theory that could fit. Why there are no marks on him? Where has he been? Why is he suddenly popping back up now? All that kind of stuff. I just think that is a scenario that could possibly fit the situation that we're in. Rob, what do you think are the chances, number one, that his return is tied in to the Idris Elba character in Hobbs and Shaw and that organization, and he's been reconstituted? And what do you think in general about the idea that maybe the plot twist in this movie could be that he's actually a villain now? What do you think?
Well, I think all of those are good speculations. I mean, with this franchise, anything is possible. I just don't like the idea. Like, first of all, I think it's probably apt that whatever was going on with Idris Elba and that organization, I think maybe that is a correct assumption. Something along those lines is happening there. But I also don't, and having him be a villain, I just don't want Han to be a villain. I just don't want that to be the case. I mean, it could be the case, and if it was, it could certainly be cool. I mean, I could understand that, but his character, to me, what I always loved about Han as he was portrayed in Tokyo Drift is that he was ahead of he knew all this stuff was going on, and he had his feelers out. So I think I would like to believe that he knew this was coming, and maybe he is in cahoots with Deckard Shaw, the lesser of two evils or something along those lines. And his return is really triumphant, and their justice will be served somehow. But I think that those are all good speculations. This franchise has flown so far over the line and has become this great B-movie franchise. And Hobbs and Shaw, there was very little verisimilitude in that movie. And as much as I kind of liked it, I mean, there's something about these movies that are the antithesis of everything I'm always talking about, but I like them. I like them nonetheless. And I think I like them because they're kind of like Star Trek in a way, that you have this group of people, this group of operatives that all work together. They're like family, and you like them all, and they work as a team, and they're good at their jobs, and they're good people. And I want to believe that Han, they had to make Dom look like he was evil in the last movie. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe they'll do that, but I would like to believe that Han is on the side of good and the side of justice, and maybe not, but I'm just happy to see Sung Kang back because he has been terribly missed, John, terribly missed.
All right. But that is what I wanted to make the topic of today's question of the day. The question of the day, as I put to you guys, and I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. So I made that. So just before we started the show today, I jumped on Twitter and I put up this question of the day. And the question is simply this. The F9 trailer gave away the return of Han. Do you think that the twist Is Han turning out to be the villain of the movie? We discussed this and more on today's show. Again, put that up just before the show started. Over 1,800 of you guys have already cast your votes. Right now, this is interesting to me. 46.5% of you saying no, he's not the villain, but 53% of you guys think there's at least a chance. 18.8% of you guys are saying yes, he is the villain, and 34.8% of you guys are saying there's actually a 50-50 chance that he could be, which I think is really interesting. So let me put the question now to the rest of you guys. How do you think they're going to explain the return of Han? Is he a twin brother? Is he an evil cyborg now? Was it all a ruse and Jason Statham's character pulled him out and didn't actually have him die? Maybe, as Rob suggested, he kind of foresaw his own demise and planned accordingly. What do you guys think about this? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to main topic number 4. Getting back to the MCU, our fourth main topic today gets submitted into us by Isaac Beebe, who writes, so, according to The Hollywood Reporter, Owen Wilson has joined the cast of the upcoming Loki series on Disney Plus. Yes, indeed, he has. It says that his character details are hidden in Odin's vault. What are your thoughts on this news, and who do you think he will be playing? All right, thanks a lot for writing that in, man. And yes, of course, we were talking about the Loki series a little bit earlier. They, of course, had a very, very small part in that Disney Plus spot on the Superbowl for their upcoming MCU films and upcoming MCU shows, I should say. But one of the pieces of news that dropped a few days ago is the fact that Owen Wilson, and this has been confirmed, Owen Wilson has been cast to appear in the Loki series. Let's get this part out of the way right now. Who could he be playing? It's irrelevant. Doesn't matter. He could be playing anybody. There's been absolutely no information given. With the TVA on the jersey, maybe he's like the main operative and point of contact between the TVA and Loki. Maybe he's something else. Who knows? Doesn't really matter at this point. How do I feel in general about this? I love it. I love it. Listen, I've always said that the main thing is talent. It is never a mistake to add talent to a project. Owen Wilson is a talented dude. I have been a big fan of Owen Wilson's ever since he did that little... Now, I know he was around before this, but this is the movie that made me a fan of his. He did this little movie with him and Jackie Chan called Shanghai Noon. And I know a lot of you guys have not seen Shanghai Noon. There was also a sequel called Shanghai Nights, which you can absolutely skip. Don't bother with that one. But Shanghai Noon was a hell of a lot of fun. I enjoyed it immensely, and it's the movie that really exposed me for the first time to the talents of Owen Wilson, and I really have enjoyed him ever since. Even when he's in bad stuff, The Internship, whatever, even when he's in bad stuff, I actually end up really appreciating him. Of course, he had some personal problems and personal issues, but he seems to have rebounded from those. So the idea for me of taking a really talented guy like this, particularly a guy with, the comedic talents that he has, if you've never seen Wedding Crashers, a guy with the comedic talents that he has, putting him into a movie with into a show with Tom Hiddleston, playing this role, I think it's fantastic. I really do. I think it's great, and I'm all for it. Is he the only guy to be in it? No. But adding his name to it is certainly one of the names that gets me excited. Rob, do you have any sort of theory as to who he could be playing, and how are you feeling in general about the addition of an Owen Wilson to this?
Well, first of all, I've always loved Owen Wilson. I mean, all the way back to Wes Anderson's first film, Bottle Rocket.
Yeah.
And, I loved him in Woody Allen's Midnight in Paris. I've always loved Owen Wilson. And I think this is great, but I have absolutely no idea. Like you, I mean, is he playing an MCU character? Is he playing a new character? I would suspect he's probably going to play a new character that was created for the show. I don't know why I think that, but I do. Or maybe he is an MCU character. But I don't know. I think he's probably an original character, because when you hire somebody Owen Wilson's a movie star. And again, it's somebody that's being put into this. I think, once again, Kevin Feige and the folks over at Marvel really know how to cast their roles. And I think they wouldn't be casting Owen Wilson unless his comedic chops were somehow going to come into play. And that element was, Loki is kind of an inherently comedic character in a way. He's never been like this heavy villain. He's always had an element of fun to him. So I think Owen Wilson is a perfect addition to whatever they've cooked up as far as the cast is concerned.
All right, guys. Question is, what do you think about the addition of Owen Wilson to the Loki series? I think it's a really fun addition. And do you have any particular theories about who he may be playing? Jump on down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys, with all that down, let's now move on to our fifth and final main topic today. And our fifth and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Lavish Pandit, who writes, "Hey, John, big fan. Thank you so much, man. My question to you is, why do actors like Bryan Cranston, for example, not come into the conversation of the greatest actors living today? Cranston has got 6 Emmys, and he was very good in Malcolm as a comedic actor." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, you know what? I hadn't really thought about it before until you sent in that message about, you know what? That's true. When we get into these conversations about the greatest actors either of all time or the greatest actors today and all that kind of stuff, it's always the theatrical actors that are mentioned. It's very rarely, if ever, the television actors that get put into that conversation. So why is that? Are television actors just inherently less talented than movie actors? I don't think that's true. Does nobody know who television actors are? Well, no, a lot of people watch television, especially like a show like Breaking Bad with a guy like Bryan Cranston, who is infinitely likable and infinitely talented. So why is it that guys like Bryan Cranston and other television actors never get mentioned when we have these conversations, when we get into these discussions about who are the greatest actors today? I have one main theory about it, about why. And I'm not, by the way, I'm not talking about shoulds or shouldn'ts. Shoulds and shouldn'ts I'm taking out because you're asking me, why do I think this is the case?
Yeah.
Not whether it should be the case or not. Why is it the case? Here's my main theory about why we never hear the actors, the television actors mentioned in these great actor debates. I think, and I could be wrong, and again, I'm not saying this is the way it should be. I think it's because, for the most part, these great television actors, we only know them for one role. Like a lot of people, Bryan Cranston has done a lot more than just Breaking Bad. But when you ask the average person out there, you know, oh, hey, who's this Bryan Cranston guy? They're not going to say he's the dentist from Seinfeld. They're not going to say, oh, he's that guy from Malcolm. They're going to say he's that guy from Breaking Bad. And I think when you look at these performers in their careers, they're known for playing one role. Now, you can have a great Olympic gymnast if they go out and just do the world's most perfect somersault, but that's all they do. They just keep doing the same somersault. It's going to be hard for other people to look at that and say they're the greatest gymnast. And that kind of analogy, I think, translates over to this, Rob, about how, you know, we see them playing the same role, and it's just the same role, and it's just the same role. Remember the actor John, I think you pronounce his last name Heder? The guy who was Napoleon Dynamite, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Everybody loved him in Napoleon Dynamite, in that one role. No one ever liked him in anything ever since, though. Even when he was in Blades of Glory with Will Ferrell, you just realized, oh, yeah, the Napoleon Dynamite thing was really the only thing he had. Or he just never had the right role to really show us his stuff. The point is, with theatrical actors, we are seeing them once, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times a year, taking on completely different characters in different roles, and it gives us a better appreciation for it. Again, I'm not saying about whether we should take that in consideration or shouldn't. I'm simply acknowledging that you're right. TV actors don't come up in those conversations, and if I had to come up with a reason why, I'm thinking it's because we usually only know those actors for playing the same role week after week. Right or wrong, fair or unfair, that's my theory as to why they're not in those conversations. Rob, first of all, I guess I should ask, have you also recognized that we never really hear television actors being mentioned in these great actors of our age, of our era, or of all time? Or maybe you've heard otherwise, and if so, why do you think that is?
Well, first of all, I think you're right. I think that television actors are known for their most indelible roles that we most identify them with. But also, I think there's sort of a prejudice when it comes to TV and movies, that movies are still at the top of that pyramid. And people think that, okay, if you are a movie actor, look, obviously you get a lot more diversity in terms of roles. and that's part of it. But also, I think movie acting is seen as being, because television acting is almost, even though you have great actors and they bring these characters to life, they don't have the diversity. Like you look at Brent Spiner, who played Data in Star Trek: The Next Generation. He was great as Data, but Data was kind of a one-note character. And once he figured out how to play Data, but he played him with emotions and he did a great job. But it's not like he was going to play somebody who was, say, handicapped or, from a different country and maybe had a crazy accent. Like Meryl Streep was the queen of accents and she could play all these different characters. And I think that there's just, film actors are given a lot more leeway and a lot more latitude to show what they can do in terms of acting ability in movies, as opposed to TV actors who end up playing these single characters. And that's not to say they're not. I think, by the way, John, I think Bryan Cranston is a world-class actor. He's amazing. I really love everything he's done, and being able to go from Malcolm in the Middle to jumping over to playing Walter White is in Breaking Bad is amazing. And then, when his film work has been great too. The guy's an amazing actor.
I love him. I think he's great. And it's unfortunate that we don't get those guys included in those conversations. We put the question to you guys. What do you think the reason is that we don't often hear television performers who are every bit as good actors as film performers never get mentioned in these all-time great performances or all-time great actors lists? What's your theory about that? Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. That wraps up all of our main topics today. We're now going to go into the second half of our show and take all the live questions you guys have been sending in. Of course, there's two different ways to send in live questions. Use the tip link that's in the top line of the description of this video. That's the best way to send in questions. Or you can use the super chat feature here on YouTube as well. But first, as we do every day, guys, we're going to take a quick 4-minute break. Give us a chance to rest the vocal cords, stretch our legs, refill our drinks, give you a chance, run and use the bathroom quickly. So hang tight, guys. Don't go anywhere. The John Campea Show will return in just a couple of minutes. We'll be right back. All right, you guys, we are back, and thank you so much for your patience as an indulgence as we took a little bit of a break there. Want to mention something here, Rob. This just kind of came up. I just got a notification that Disney is going to be releasing in theaters a movie of the Hamilton Broadway show. I think it's just going to be a recording of the Broadway show itself.
Wow.
It says it's going to come out in October of 2020. I think this is the best way to do it. Have you seen this news, and what do you think about that?
No, but I think what a great idea. I mean, I can't wait. I have not seen Hamilton. I've tried to see it, and I really want to see it. And seeing a beautifully shot production, I'm sure, is going to be fantastic.
It is a wonderful, wonderful show, and I think this is great. We'll probably talk about this on the John Campea Show tomorrow, but news just dropped, guys. This is something for you to look into if you want to. We'll talk about it on the show tomorrow. All right, guys, let's get on to our live questions today that you guys have been sending in. And our first one today comes to us from Sam O'Neill, who writes, "Hey, John, I listened to Worst Movie, Best Movie, Best Movie, Worst Movie. That's our podcast. By the way, newest episode 3 of season 2 of Best Movie, Worst Movie with me, Robert Meyer Burnett, and Cody Miller goes up later today, so keep your eyes open for that. I grew up with the prequels, and geez, your 3 best are my top 3. But God, I don't know which one I would pick. My top 3 in no particular order are Revenge of the Sith, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, with honorable mention to The Rise of Skywalker. Worst 3, Attack of the Clones, The Last Jedi, and Phantom Menace. However, I really don't enjoy any of them. I just like them all, just others more. All right, got that, Sam. And yeah, we had a very different, Rob. We had a very different set of films between the 3 of us, you, me, and Cody, on the last episode of Best Movie, Worst Movie, when the topic was Star Wars films. Mine was Jedi, of course. Yours was Empire, and Cody's was Revenge of the Sith. But it is really weird that you can get all these Star Wars fans, and everybody's list always looks different. Just ranking the limited number of Star Wars movies, everybody's list looks different. And of course, just remind us, why was Empire your number 1?
Well, I think what Empire really deepened the Star Wars mythology, and it really showed, I thought, Luke's journey toward becoming a Jedi. Obviously, it deepened our understanding of his lineage. And I felt that while Star Wars was an incredible realization of science fantasy on screen, I thought The Empire Strikes Back was just such a leap forward in terms of the depth of the storytelling. And it really, to me, Empire was what cemented Star Wars into the modern mythology that it has become. And without The Empire Strikes Back, I don't think, if Star Wars was a standalone movie, we all would have loved it, but I don't think it would have the lasting staying power it did without Empire's depth and feeling and emotion.
All right, let's move on here. Arjun Athwal writes, "Am I the only one who thinks George Lucas wanting total control is a bad thing?" No, you're not the only one. By the way, he doesn't. I mean, we've heard all these rumors and reports. I've seen nothing to substantiate any of them, so we can just ignore these. But we saw what happened the last time he had full control over a Star Wars project. Great storyteller, but not as good at dialogue or direction, in my opinion. And I think that's kind of the conclusion I came to as well after the prequels. And listen, I worship at the altar of George Lucas every day. Absolutely. But when you look at the behind the scenes stuff of the prequels, what you see, and I remember even at the time being concerned about this, what you see is George Lucas completely surrounded by yes men. Like just absolutely, totally, 100% surrounded by yes men, including the producer of the 3 prequels, a guy by the name of Rick McCallum, who I have met and is a very cool dude. But everybody's job at Lucasfilm was to say, "Genius, George. Perfect idea, George. Wonderful, George. We'll make that happen." And that's not a good creative environment. It's not a good creative environment. So I don't think we're going to see that happen. I don't think he wants anything. I would just, Arjan, just throw all those rumors you hear away. I've seen nothing legitimate to substantiate any of them. So I wouldn't worry about it at all. All right. Derek Choi writes, sends in a $50 tip. Thank you so much for supporting the channel on that level, dude. I'm going to answer your question here, and then we're going to answer it in its own standalone video in the next week or two. Keep your eyes open for that. All right. Derek writes, "Hey, John. Really really respect you and your point of view on things. Thank you so much. And wanted advice on a life decision. Have 2 kids and travel 6 to 8 days a month for work. Like my job, but hate being away. Opinion. $150,000 for this job with more stress, but less hours, or $90,000 for a job I love without travel. Oh God. I don't know, Rob. I'm the wrong guy to ask for that. I mean, because everybody's an expert on what other people should do. And like, so I don't know, man. I mean, look, 60,000, money isn't just money. See, people say money's not the important thing. Well, okay, but to a degree, it's very important because that money is also things you use to provide for your kids,
right,
and to set a future for your kids. But you got to weigh, what's the cost? Am I losing out on my kid's childhood by taking the extra money? I don't know, man. 6 to 8 days a month. I don't know. Maybe I keep the higher paying job at 6 to 8 days. If it was like 10 to 14 days a month, that would be different. I don't know. Rob, I say keep the higher paying job with 6 to 8 days a month out. What do you think?
Well, look, having 2 kids, or he said 2 kids, right?
Yeah.
You've got having 2 kids. When kids are kids, time doesn't seem to be passing by, but for adults, children grow so fast and they change. And I think that at the end of our days, are we going to remember how much money we had or things we bought? I don't think so. I think we're going to remember the memories, the time that we had. Now, it would really come down to the fact that if you can still live comfortably on that $90,000, will you be able to provide for healthcare and insurance and clothes and everything kids need without worrying about it, so you can spend more time with your kids and make more of those memories? I would say do that. However, if you cannot, if there is a financial burden that is going to be lifted by being gone 6 or 8 days, I would say that financial stress level being removed will allow the time that you spend with your kids to be better, to be deeper, more effective. You're not worrying about it. If you want to take your kids to a movie, or you want to take them to Toys R Us, or you want to take them to Chuck E. Cheese's if there's one, or Dave and Buster's, or wherever, if you have the money to do those things, or take trips, when I was a kid, my parents took us on a big trip once a year, and it was great. And I think that on a daily basis, kids are not necessarily as aware of monetary things. I mean, they want their dad around to play ball with, or they want their dad around to talk to. So it really comes down to how do you want to live your life. But I would always err on the side of more time with your family and loved ones. However, if you are spending more time with your family and loved ones and you're worrying about money, then the time you're spending is sort of not as good as it would be if you are financially stable and know that you're putting money away. And I think it really comes down to how can you most effectively spend that time with your kids.
All right. Great question, man. Just remember, we're not the experts on that. Just keep that in mind. We're not the experts on this.
I just keep thinking about Soren in Generations saying that time is the fire in which we burn. And I'm like, well, that's the one thing you can't replace.
All right. Next up, Ben Burnside writes, "Hey, John, a few months ago, I had a wonderful experience of watching Lawrence of Arabia, one of my favorites, at my movie theater at Fathom Events. Wow, it was a great experience as I walked in and the theater was packed for this 60-year-old movie. I felt like I was to the art of filmmaking as I was getting an education of how to make, dare I say, cinema magic with this movie. It's sad that this movie isn't talked about simply because of its age. To me, the 3 hours and 45 minutes zip by. The intermission helped. When people talk about the old days of when filmmakers didn't have green screens and actually had to go to the desert or film their movies, and they really are referring to Lawrence of Arabia. The shots and scenery were epic, the music was grand, and the superb story of Sir Lawrence. When people talk about movie characters with the biggest character arcs in movie history, names like Michael Corleone, Darth Vader get mentioned, and for good reason, but damn it, Sir Lawrence deserves a mention. Lawrence went from being a godlike hero to the Arabians to becoming a person viewed as an absolute ruthless dictator. It's a sad, tragic, epic tragedy of a story, and it's a movie that deserves to be watched in theaters. Okay, that was the end of it. And deserves to be watched in theaters. All right, so we didn't get a conclusion to that. Listen, Ben, you're going to get nothing but a giant amen from me. You know, I talk about Lawrence of Arabia a lot. Peter O'Toole is one of my all-time favorite actors. Little movie no one's ever seen of his called My Favorite Year. You got to go watch that. But Peter O'Toole,
good.
who was super active, even up until he died. Like he was always popping up and stuff. He was tremendous and wonderful and grand, and it is one of those movies. And Rob, I believe I heard one of the most interesting pieces of trivia about Lawrence of Arabia, which was if you watch Lawrence of Arabia, the cinematographer had a thing where every shot, every camera movement shot, always moved left to right. Every camera shot throughout the movie moved left to right, which I remember thinking, that can't be true. And then you're watching like, oh my God, it's totally true. It is one of the true greats. And listen, if you want to hear, we toss the word epic around a lot, but epic is Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah.
Epic is Ben-Hur. Like these movies defined what a motion picture epic really was. And you look at the scale and what they had to do to make those motion pictures. And, you know, it's just, you know what it reminds me of? The analogy goes to like the pyramids. How the hell, without modern construction equipment and blah, 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 did they make the pyramids? That's kind of how I feel about when you look at these epic pictures from, you know, before we were born that were being made. It's just stunning, stunning, stunning. I totally agree with your assessment, Ben. Rob, your thoughts on Lawrence of Arabia?
Dude, if there's a movie that you could consider to be a GOAT, that would probably be one of them. I mean, people talk about the best movies ever made, but I think that Lawrence of Arabia is not only is it one of the best movies ever made, but it really does, as we were just talking about, represents the greatest in terms of the cinematic art form and what it was able to do and what it was able to accomplish. And, you know, like we've said, there will never be another movie like it. You know, there just never will be. And watching it, I mean, that movie has peak verisimilitude. It's just, it's like the viewer said. I mean, the music. The grand is the word I would use to describe the whole thing. I mean, the acting is grand, the cinematography is grand. You know, the direction is grand, everything about it, and the story is sweeping. And you can't sing it in a theater. There's nothing like seeing that movie in a giant theater.
Absolutely.
I mean, it really is transporting, and it will sweep you away, and you'll never forget it. Like once you watch Lawrence of Arabia, you're like, this is what movies are. I think in our collective subconscious, what we believe movies to be are completely embodied by Lawrence of Arabia.
All right, well said. All right, next up, Simple writes, top 10 all time. Number 1, Inglourious Bastards. Number 2, Interstellar. Number 3, The Prestige. Number 4, Gladiator. Number 5, The Dark Knight. Number 6, Empire Strikes Back. Number 7, Django Unchained. Seeing a little bit of a pattern there. Number 8, Ford v Ferrari. Number 9, Inception. Number 10, The Founder. The Founder is really good, by the way. By the way, what about Movie Club? Movie Club is just something we're going to have, me and the Patreon supporters are just going to have to talk about at some point. So we'll put that aside. A lot of modern films in there. So I would say, listen, dude, go watch Lawrence of Arabia. Go watch Ben-Hur. Go watch Bridge on the River Kwai. Go watch some of these classics as well. I mean, you got some really great movies in there. A lot of Quentin Tarantino and a number of Chris Nolan films. But I would say, and these are all great films, but I would say try expanding your the decades that you've watched some films from just for fun, because I think you'll find that you really enjoy a lot of those too. Anyway, some terrific films on that list, Simple. 50 Shades of Geek writes, John, who do you think is more powerful? Superman in Man of Steel or Thor in the end of Infinity War? Superman. Always Superman, 100% of the time. Always Superman. 50 Shades of Geek also writes, how old do you think Groot will be in Guardians 3? That's a good question, Rob. We've seen Baby Groot. We've seen Teen Groot. What are we going to get? Are we going to get a more adult Groot in Guardians 3 at this point, or where do you think we're going to get?
Yeah, I think we're going to get the young matinee idol Groot. He will have crossed over into the threshold of young adulthood. We'll get somebody brash, somebody who's lived through death and been reborn and has seen the universe come and die. Actually, Groot, he's died twice now?
Yeah, he's died twice. Well, technically, Baby Groot is not Groot. Groot from the first film is gone, and Baby Groot is a different character, also named Groot. So I don't know. I got to ask James to clarify that sometime.
I think we're gonna get the young fighter pilot. We're gonna get the Maverick from Top Gun version of Groot. At least that's what I would. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. That's the direction it's going to go in.
All right. Next up, 50 Shades writes, I completely agree that Megamind, the animated film voiced by Will Ferrell, is an underrated animated movie. Me and my mom still answer the phone with, hello? Because of that movie. Rob, that was one that actually came up the other day. Megamind was like this animated film that was kind of like one of the first of its kind to propose to the audience, we're going to tell the story of the villain. But much like Gru in Despicable Me, maybe was a villain, but now it's kind of the hero, good guy. They turned in the anti-hero, all that kind of stuff. Not one that I remember with huge fondness, but it was a solid little movie. It was okay. Did you ever get around to seeing Megamind?
Yeah, and I liked it. I think it's good. I mean, what I loved about it was one of these movies that totally delivered on the promise of what it was. Like, it knew what it was. And it wasn't necessarily my first choice when I saw it. I actually saw it in a theater, and I'm like, this is good. I didn't want to go see it. I didn't want to. I went reluctantly, but when it was over, I'm like, this was good. I mean, they knew what they were doing. They made the movie they wanted to make. That was good.
All right. Next up, Willow writes, I enjoyed the Fast and Furious trailer. However, I did have the same issue as you over Vin Diesel and John Cena being brothers. Is it weird that I'm not bothered by the lack of physics, but I am bothered by two people not even remotely looking related? It's like, you're never going to convince me that these two will come from the same gene pool. There's just no way around it. Plus, listen, John Cena, look, he's not an actor. All right. He's been playing an actor, but when he is in a supportive comedic role, he can be gold. Trainwreck.
He was great.
Sisters, he was really, really good in. When you get him in, and listen, he showed in, what was it called? Blockers. When he was in Blockers with Leslie Mann, he showed he can really be funny, but he's also can't carry scenes. He can't carry scenes on his, he's not there yet. And then in Bumblebee, I love Bumblebee, but Cena was kind of the weak link in Bumblebee. Although he had come a long way. He's come a long way, and maybe he's continued to come a long way. I stand as a little bit nervous about how he's going to... Now, granted, the Fast and Furious franchise has never been known as the thespian's ship to iconic art. Okay, I get it. It's never been that kind of a movie.
What?
So maybe he fits in just fine, but I do have to admit I'm a little bit nervous about it. I'm a little bit. If this was a comedy, like a straight up comedy, and John Cena was one of the supporting characters in it, I'm all in, because I think he's got some really good naturally comedic timing. But I just don't know about him as a villain. How are you feeling about that? Because I noticed you didn't bring up Cena at all when you talked about the trailer before. How are you feeling about him in it?
Well, I feel like you. I mean, the beginning and end of the verisimilitude of that movie is the John Cena question. Maybe they have the same mother but different fathers. Maybe something along those lines. But yeah, if they're absolutely 100% blood siblings, I'm like, come on now. It's going to be really hard to take. And I understand it's the whole movie's about family, but this goes a little far. It just goes a little too... Why does he have to be Dom's brother? And why has Dom's brother... I mean, they're already involved in... The last movie had a nuclear submarine and torpedoes on the ice. If his brother was involved in some kind of clandestine... If his brother's the badass that is stated in the trailer, where was his brother in the last movie? Why isn't he teaming up with Cypher? Or maybe he has. I don't know. Yeah, it's a little... It's goofy, man. We've come a long way... Oh,
one of the things people are possibly excited about, though, is getting to Fast 10, where Dwayne The Rock Johnson has suggested he's going to participate in Fast 10 and having John Cena versus Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Well, dude, come on, that would be badass.
But look, we all know what's going to happen. By the end of this movie, John Cena is going to be sitting down at the table with the family, and he's going to be part of the family, and they will have just beaten Han because Han is the villain of the movie. They're going to join up and beat Han. There you go. Hashtag Han had it coming. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that all goes. All right. Next up, Zayn writes, "Hey, John, hope y'all are doing well. I am doing well, thank you. I just rewatched Fincher's movies, SN. I don't know what SN is. And Dragon Tattoo. And I love SN. Oh, Social Network, probably. And I liked the Dragon Tattoo more. And I think Garfield should have been nominated for an Oscar. I'm looking forward. Boy, guys, please pay attention to how you're typing. I look forward for his next movie. Hashtag justice for Han. Listen, I have always said that I thought Andrew Garfield absolutely not only should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor in Social Network, he should have won Best Supporting Actor in Social Network. Instead, the Academy has these stupid, idiotic rules that say, it doesn't matter if your actor's a lead actor in a movie. You can just say he's supporting actor even if you want. And they put Christian Bale from Fighter, who was clearly a lead actor in that movie, and they say, we'll just put him in the Best Supporting category. He never should have been in that category. That should have been Andrew Garfield's category, but whatever. And listen, Rob, I'm in the minority, but everybody gets mad when I say this. I prefer the North American version. Well, it's quasi-North American version. I prefer the remake of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo over the original.
Oh,
and the original's great, but I really like this one. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I loved the Swedish version of Dragon Tattoo, and I own the extended versions because it was originally made for Swedish television. And I love those movies. Look, Fincher's a master filmmaker. He's one of my favorite filmmakers working today. But I just don't think that his Dragon Tattoo it didn't embody the story itself. It was beautifully made, but I did prefer the original Swedish version. Not that Rooney Mara didn't do a fantastic job in the role of Elizabeth Salander, but I like the Swedish version better.
All right. Next one, Zion also writes, I just saw Uncut Gems and I liked it a lot, and I thought Adam Sandler was really good in the movie. He was very, very good in the movie. Some people are saying that the ending doesn't make sense, but I thought it really did due to his actions during the movie, and Kevin Garnett and his side chick were really good first. Well, we're not going to go in. We don't want to ruin it for people because a lot of people still haven't seen Uncut Gems, so we're not going to go into that. Listen, I'm okay that Uncut Gems did not get nominated for Best Picture. It's actually not in my top 10, but I did like it very, very much. I was actually also okay that Adam Sandler didn't get nominated for Best Lead Actor, only because there's only 5 spots and the other guys nominated were also wicked good. But I thought it just showed once again just how good Adam Sandler can be in these dramatic roles. And I really hope moving forward in his career that he stops doing the $5 cheap comedies for Netflix and focuses more on his dramatic stuff, because he is world class. He's absolutely world class when it comes to his dramatic stuff, so I hope he sticks with that. All right, 50 Shades of Geek writes, if Tom Cruise will do a time travel movie, will he literally travel in time for authenticity? Of course, this is the running gag. Like, we need a scene where he's jumping out of a plane? Okay, I'll jump out of the plane. Need a scene where he's, running in a helicopter? Oh, he'll fly the helicopter. Even in Top Gun, he's flying jets. I'm sure he didn't do all of it, but he's flying jets in Top Gun. Rob, I mean, at what point do we see Tom Cruise start to put the brakes on a little bit and slow down? Because is he not getting close to his 60s? How old is he at this point?
I don't know. He's got to be pushing 60.
I got to ask Google. Hey, Google, how old is Tom Cruise? We'll find this out in a second here.
57 years old.
He's 57. He's got to slow down at some point.
By the way, can we talk about how Henry Czerny, one of my favorite character actors, is coming back in Mission Impossible 7 and 8 and playing his character from the first Mission Impossible?
That's the word.
One of the things I was able to do when I travel, since I was in New York and then back to Portland, is watching movies to catch up on. And I didn't realize that Henry Czerny was in Ready or Not, which I hadn't seen.
Oh, that's right. It's so good.
It's so good. I love seeing Henry Czerny because I loved him in Clear and Present Danger, and he's another character actor I just really love that doesn't work nearly enough. And he works a lot, but not in high profile things. And I'm glad to see he's coming back front and center in Mission Impossible 7 and 8.
All right, next up, Jonathan writes. Where is Jonathan? There he is. My quick movie review of The Gentleman. Kind of boring. Not the fun movie everybody was saying. Laughed at a few moments, but was bored. Couldn't understand half of what was going on. Dialogue was just noise to me. Acting was fine. Overall disappointed, C-. That's too bad because I think The Gentleman is awesome. It's actually my favorite. Very, very short year so far, but my favorite movie of 2020 so far. I thought the story was multi-layered. There was a lot of depth. There were twists and turns in the narrative. I love Guy Ritchie's dialogue. Love Guy Ritchie's dialogue. I thought Charlie Hunnam, this is the best we've ever seen him since Sons of Anarchy. Matthew McConaughey was awesome. Henry Golding was fantastic. Why am I freezing on
Hugh Grant?
Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant is great in this movie. Hugh Grant is so good in The Gentleman. I listen, all films are subjective. It didn't work for you. That's unfortunate. But hey, that's movies, man. Some will work for you and some won't work for you, and that's all cool. But I personally loved The Gentleman. I love it. Rob, I know you've been traveling a lot, Portland, New York, and all this kind of stuff this past week. I don't know when you would have had a chance, but did you have a chance to see The Gentleman yet?
Yeah, we saw it together.
Oh, you went to the first screening I went to, right? Sorry, I've seen it like twice since. You're right. Totally forgot. Rob, your quick thoughts on The Gentleman.
No, but I as with you, you and I were hooting and hollering. We weren't yelling out loud, but we were certainly laughing and uproariously. I thought the movie was, what I loved about it was, again, it knew what it was. I'm always about authorship. And if you like Guy Ritchie, it was so much fun to watch. The actors were clearly having a blast, and I felt that however much fun that they were having making the movie was totally infectious. And I really loved the sort of labyrinthian plot and all of the acting, and it was a fun movie to watch for me, and I think it was for you too because we were both beaming when it was over.
Oh yeah, we were just giddy when we came out. I had such a good time with that. All right,
such a good time.
Let's move on here. Sam O'Neill writes, "It's crazy how some movies stick with young because they are just good, but the memories of watching them, my best mate and I, when we were 12, watched all Adam Sandler movies and even High School Musical movies and continue to do so as we got older. We are 24 and 25 now, and we still sit down and rewatched them all with a fair few drinks and just enjoy every second of it and just belt out the lyrics to the High School Musical. The movies, be good or bad, but they go down as my all times because of the memories." Listen, Sam, that is one of the most magical thing about movies is that they can become anchor points to certain memories and experiences that we had. They become anchor points. And whether that's as a result of the people that you saw them with and you still watch them today, whether it's because they surround certain events that happened in your life, movies that we've watched can become very powerfully associated with events, relationships, circumstances, whatever, and they can become incredibly nostalgic on that level and work so powerfully. I've talked on the show about some of my favorite movie memories are things that are forever now connected to other things. For instance, my best friend growing up died a little over 2 years ago, but it just solidified that first time I went to go see the Michael Keaton Batman movie because it was with my buddy Brendan. And now whenever that movie now is forever linked to, whenever I think of that movie, I think of my buddy Brendan. And it's just that thing. And so if you can have these movies that you grew up with somebody watching and you get those connections, those anchor points, that is one of the best things about movies, dude. And I'm so glad that but look, I'm not clearly a High School Musical guy. By the way, you should be watching Disney Plus for High School Musical, the sequel. But I'm not a High School Musical guy. But the fact that you guys watch them and you get to continue to watch them today, that is awesomely special. Don't take that for granted. And it's one of the best things about movies. So thank you for sharing your experience, Sam. I appreciate that, man. All right. Next up, Russell Amador writes, That 30-second teaser from Marvel of Wanda, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and Loki got me excited for what's to come. That WandaVision teaser showed Wanda as the Scarlet Witch in a quick tease, and it established how it's being played in the 50s TV show. It did. And Rob, see, to me, that little spot was a great poster child for why you cannot just have characters in their costumes from the comic books. Because sometimes they translate well, sometimes they don't. And Wanda, in that classic Scarlet Witch costume from the comics, looked fucking ridiculous. It looked absolutely ridiculous. It's like, I mean, it's cool that they put that shot in there, but it just kind of reminds me about, yep, sometimes you got to have a completely different costume for the movie. But Rob, did you have any formative theories about the WandaVision show after watching this admittedly very, very brief promo spot?
You know, to me, it's I no, but the thing that struck me is that maybe obviously we have the House of M. Marvel always goes back to their comic books and sort of they don't directly translate the stories, but do a riff on them. And in the comics, Wanda Maximoff lost her grip on reality, and she was powerful enough that she could alter all of our realities. And I think maybe something like that happened to her. Maybe the grief of what happened to Vision during Infinity War, something drove her over the edge, and she had some kind of a psychotic break. And what's happening is they've figured out a way, or the other Avengers or something, and she's living in this reality where she's escaped to. And maybe a reconstituted Vision, I don't know, is there, or maybe she's conjured him up or something. And that's where she's run off to. She's run off to live in this world because what happened caused her to have a horrible psychic break of some kind. I mean, that would be my initial speculation. I could be totally off base and completely wrong, but what I like about it is it's so off the wall and it's so unexpected that I really think, like, look, they're going off the deep end with this one, and I really hope that it's everything. I love the Legion TV series, and that was crazy. Noah Hawley's take on the X-Men and Charles Xavier, and of course David Haller, his son, and Legion. And if there's more of that, and if they've taken inspiration from that for WandaVision, I'm like, bring it on, son. I can't wait.
All right, let's move on here. Next one comes to us from Jonathan, who writes, I like most genres of movies except horror. I don't mind movies like Quiet Place, The Shining, Dr. Sleep. Dr. Sleep was so good, by the way. Why didn't more of you see Dr. Sleep? It's awesome. Anyway, or The Conjuring. But I avoid horror movies because of one thing: jump scares. I effing hate them. Like mini heart attacks. Scary monsters and creepy atmosphere are cool, but if a horror movie relies on jump scares, I'm out. The new Brahms trailer is a reminder why I don't watch horror. Shit is filled with jump scares. Questions: what genre do you not like because of a cliche it uses? I don't have any genre I don't like because of a cliche it uses. Look, cliches, true movie cliches, Rob, are ones that run throughout all genres, right? Jump scare is not really cliche. It's just a device. It's a mechanism that's used all the time. Even in comedies, they'll use a good jump scare here and there. Horror, a little bit more. Listen, when a horror relies on jump scares, that's somebody who doesn't know how to direct a horror movie. It's got to be the atmosphere, the tension. It's got to be something about the narrative itself that creeps you out with a few little jump scares peppered in there just to take advantage of that tension. But yeah, I got to say, I don't think there's any one genre of movie that I just generally, it's not like music. Like, I like almost all music except country music. I know I just bothered a lot of people by saying that, but it's true. I can't really get into country music for whatever reason. It is what it is. But with movie genres, I really don't have one that I don't enjoy and that I don't like. Rob, do you? And if so, do you have a particular reason why?
No, I really don't. And when it comes to things like, I love all movies. There isn't a genre of film that I dislike. But in terms of horror, because I'm a huge horror film fan, and I think that what I don't like as far as jump scares go are cheap jump scares. And if that's all that a movie has, because I think when you go back and you look at something like what James Wan is able to do with his films, whether it's the Insidious movies or the Conjuring films, that guy is the master. James Wan is the master of the setup and payoff as far as the jump scare. Every jump scare in his movies are earned. And when somebody gives you a jump scare, of course there's the single greatest jump scare in the world is in Exorcist 3. But don't go look at it on YouTube. You can look at it in a second and you'll be like, oh, it wasn't that good of a jump scare. But in the context of the movie, it's all about atmosphere, John. It's all about creating that atmosphere and playing your audience. And I appreciate a jump scare because I love it when it's beautifully executed.
All right, next up, Jetfire97 writes, I think Fast 9 will end with Dom's brother saying grace. Wasn't I just saying this? We'll end with Dom's brother saying grace at the dinner table because family. Or he'll die in Dom's arms trying to reconcile with, oh yeah, listen, I would put $10. I would put $10 as going to be one of those two. He either dies trying to become the good guy, or at the end, he's at the table with everybody saying grace. Rob, do you think there's any possibility? What would you say is the over-under percentage of the possibility that Fast 9 ends, alive or dead, with John Cena's character still the bad guy?
Well, I think he's going to have to be, because I think this is going to feed into 10. And I think that everybody, including me and you, wants to see John Cena and The Rock go head to head. I think, however, Fast 10 is going to end with John Cena at the dinner table. and everybody's going to be family. I mean, we're going to have Hobbs, Shaw, Han. They're all going to be sitting around that. And we're going to get the Yub Nub scene, and celebrate the love. And that's how it's going to end. And you know what? I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. The 10th Fast and the Furious movie is going to be a direct sequel to this. This is going to end on, I would say this movie is going to end on a huge cliffhanger. And we'll see.
The cliffhanger is going to be a time machine, and then Fast 10 is going to be about them needing to go back to 1942 and, stop the Nazis. So, or they got to go into, there's going to be a spaceship lands. They say, we need to take you to space. It'll be like Doc showing up the DeLorean saying, it's the problem's your kid, Dom. The problem's your kid. And they got to drive off to the future, or they're going to go back and fight dinosaurs. I told you at some point we're going to see Dominic Toretto riding a dinosaur. It's going to happen. So
well,
it's
it is Universal,
Nazis.
Dude. It's Universal, so they could make that crossover happen. The Jurassic World.
That's right, they can. Don't you forget it. All right. Listen, it is, of course, 10:30, so it's time for us to let Rob go so he can go do the stuff he's got to do with his day. Rob, it's great having you back, and we'll, of course, see you again tomorrow. But in the meantime, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM. Find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett, or, of course, on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and my show, Robservations, the show about something, John.
All right, dude, always great to have you back, and we will see you again tomorrow.
Justice for Han.
Justice for Han. All right, thanks for being. Okay, guys, we've still got about a half hour here, so let's keep right on rolling with all of your questions. The next one up comes to us from Wally Jackson, who says, don't you ever bet against the Chiefs again, John. What, the Chiefs who have won once? That's adorable. One. Oh, good for you. One. Come back and talk to me when you got 6 rings on your finger. Now, listen, I loved that game. What a terrific game. Not Mahomes' best game. He threw 2 picks, whatever, but it was a fabulous game, a game that comes down to the last possession. What more can you ask for the Super Bowl? Wonderful, wonderful game. Totally entertained, and I'm totally thrilled for the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm especially thrilled for Coach Andy Reid. If there's anybody in the NFL who deserves that, it was Coach Andy Reid, and I'm super, super thankful. But don't get in this never bet against the Chiefs. Okay, it's adorable. They've won 1. Okay, let's see where they're at in 5 years. But it was a great win. Great season, and totally happy for Coach Andy Reid. It was great. All right, Wally Jackson then writes, Chiefs Kingdom rise. It's our time now. We'll see. Remember, here's the thing. We hear NFL players say this all the time, and it's true. Like, the new hot thing gets to the Super Bowl, and you think, oh, this is going to happen all the time. And it very rarely, if ever, does. And, I remember when RG3 came out, he was the hottest thing when the Seahawks won the Super Bowl. It's like, oh, they're going to be in the Super Bowl every year. Well, they got back once and haven't been back since. I mean, it's really, really hard. And especially in the AFC next year. Like, I mean, if Jackson continues by the way, unanimous MVP of the league, if Jackson continues to develop and get better, he's already the MVP. Imagine if he gets better. The Ravens are going to be scary for a long, long, long time. I mean, the Titans figured out the right game plan to stop them on one day, but they could be scary for a long time. So listen, let's just enjoy and be entertained by this great brand of football that the Kansas City Chiefs play, but I wouldn't go betting the house on them getting back to the Super Bowl next year. I'm not saying I'm betting against them, but I'm just saying don't get too carried away just yet. Just enjoy the win, man. Just enjoy the win. It was well-deserved. All right. Philly Shifley writes, John Cena's been there the whole time. We just couldn't see him. That well said, Phil. Well said. Well done, sir. You'd have to know the WWE to get that, but that was well said, Phil. All right, Priscilla Navarro writes, Shakira and J-Lo's halftime show was amazing. I'll tell you what, it was one of the best halftime shows I've seen in years. And I admit, I was like, oh, okay, I like J-Lo and I like Shakira. Okay, so it'll be fine. Such an entertaining show. Damn good entertaining show. Full marks to them. Esteval writes, Fast 9 is so ridiculous that I'm all down for it. Yep. And I think that's just going to have to be. We're just going to have to embrace the ridiculousness of it. I mean, we did it for Hobbs and Shaw with $6 billion robo Idris Elba. And once we did embrace it, we were just able to enjoy the fun of it. And maybe that will be what we do for Fast 9 as well. All right. War Machine Rocks writes, Own one, rent one, delete one. Adam Sandler edition. Punch Drunk Love, Uncut Gems, and The Longest Yards. Well, that's easy. I enjoy The Longest Yard. I do, but that's the one I delete. I own Punch Drunk Love, and I rent Uncut Gems. I think his performance in Uncut Gems is better than his performance in Punch Drunk Love, but I think Punch Drunk Love is overall a better film. So yeah, I'm going to own Punch Drunk, I'm going to rent Uncut Gems, and sadly, I'm going to have to delete The Longest Yard. All right, Orange Hand writes, you're a Sherman Moore fan. Ever watch Criminal Minds? Yeah, I did. I didn't watch the whole series, but I did watch a bunch of him in Criminal Minds. I actually first started seeing him in, what was it? It was like a daytime soap opera. I remember I was like sick for like a month. This is going back years and years and years. This is pre-AMC days. Pre-AMC days. And I remember I got like sick. I got like wicked sick for weeks, right? And all I could do for a few weeks was just lay on the couch and watch TV. And for a short window of time, I actually started watching some daytime soap operas. And one of them was Young and the Restless. Or Y&R. That was the name of it. And that's where I first saw him. I thought, this dude's got like movie star written all over him. And he never did become a movie star, but he went on to do some pretty things. Now, yeah, I stopped watching daytime soaps shortly after I was sick, but I think that was the first time I recognized him. It's like, this guy's just got movie star written all over him. I'm kind of surprised he was never able to break through on that level. But hey, who cares? He's had a totally successful career on television. Let's see. Orange Hand writes, ever seen the Japanese film Battle Royale 2000? Oh, dude, we talk about Battle Royale all the time. Good morning. It's a beautiful day for killing. Oh, yeah. Oh, we talk about Battle Royale all the time. It's awesome. There would be no Hunger Games if it weren't for Battle Royale. All right. Jesse Price writes, hey, John and Rob. After seeing Jojo Rabbit in 1917 this weekend, what a great double feature. Is there any other movies I should check out? Parasite is on my list already. Thanks and keep up the filthy. Well, it's hard to say, Jesse, when I don't know what you have or have not seen yet. If we're talking about only things that are in theaters right now, I don't know that Knives Out is still in theaters. If it is, definitely go see that. It's one of the best films of the year. It's absolutely fabulous. I don't know that Parasite is out anymore. So if you're just limiting to that, I'm not really sure. But any of the films that are nominated for Best Picture, those are great. Again, it's hard to say when I don't know the list that you're talking about or what you have or have not seen already. But I would just say, just go look at the Best Picture nominee list. Can't go wrong with any of them. Absolutely cannot go wrong with any of them. If not ones that are on there, a film like Knives Out, or I should say Uncut Gems is another one you should maybe check out and stuff like that. But yeah, can't go wrong with the Best Picture list, my friend. But that sounds like you had a great weekend at the movies, man. And listen, I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to have a better weekend at the movies if you double feature Jojo Rabbit in 1917. you're not going to have a better weekend at the movies for a while. So you may have just spoiled yourself a little bit. All right. Thanks for asking, Jesse. All right. Cinema Reviews writes, I don't watch Supernatural, but did I hear you right on Saturday's open mic, John? You don't care what happens in the Supernatural finale? Not really. Not really. I'm not a big fan of this final season, to be honest with you. And I've loved Supernatural for 14 years. And I liked it all the way up to last season's season finale. The season finale of last year lost me, where they decided to make Chuck the villain. That to me was a desperate last second retcon, just because we need as big of a bad guy as we can for the final season. And it just hasn't worked. And it goes contrary to a lot of stuff they've done before. And I don't know. It just, look, I still enjoy watching it because it's Sam and Dean Winchester talking to each other. I can just watch a show when it's just Sam and Dean just chatting together. But yeah, if I'm being honest, I'm going to watch all the episodes. And look, this is going to go down as one of my most enjoyed TV series of all time. I have watched and loved Supernatural for a long time. But I do confess, I really don't care how they end it. I really don't at this point. So we'll see how it goes. All right. Shaw writes, what? Han lives? Damn, my plan would have worked if it wasn't for you meddling pundits. They're looking for Shaw. Hey, listen, there's still a theory out there. There's a theory out there, and Rob kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, that Shaw is in on it. That Shaw is in on it. That maybe Shaw knew he never really killed the dude, right? So, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of questions that have to be answered. Right now, I'm kind of leaning. I'm not buying into it. I'm not putting any money on it. I'm just saying I am leaning into this theory that the same organization that got Idris Elba will have gotten him as well. And he's going to be one of these enhanced humans too. I don't know that they're going to do that. I'm just saying that's the way I'm kind of leaning right now. That's the way I'm kind of leaning. All right. Shekinah Knight writes, John and crew, long time, first time. Thank you so much for being here, dude. I love your show, especially when I disagree. That's always when it's more fun. For I learn another point of view. Regarding Rotten Tomatoes, I get why media reports critic scores, but why ignore audience scores even higher? Please explain to me as if I were a 6-year-old. Well, I mean, it's really rather plain. Here's the most underlying thing of it. Up until recently, I mean, first of all, you can never trust audience scores. You can never trust them, particularly because people could just go on and upvote, downvote, whatever. They don't have to have any accountability. They don't have to have anything. They can just put whatever they want on a thing, whether they've seen a movie or not. Critic scores are completely useless, or audience scores, I should say, are completely useless. Now, Rotten Tomatoes took a good positive step in having their audience ratings only be ratings counted from verified ticket purchasers. So you have to be able to prove that you saw the movie. And I think that's the way it should be, because I don't think people should just be able to drop in whether or not they saw the movie and say, I don't like that girl in it, so I'm going to give this movie a 0, even though they never saw it. And you know that happened all the time. Or, this movie's got a spaceship in it. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to give it a 10. Because that happened all the time, too. So Rotten Tomatoes taking the step to saying only verified ticket purchasers will have their votes count. I think that's a good step. Here's the problem, though. And this is always the big thing. Film critics see just about every movie, regardless if it's a movie that looks like it appeals to them or not. Therefore, critics go into with a general middle of the lane, impartial kind of expectation, which is no expectation. They'll just like anybody else, they'll think a movie looks good or looks bad or whatever, but then they go in like me. I'm a film critic. I'm a Rotten Tomatoes film critic. I go into a movie sometimes, I think the movie looks bad, but you guys have seen me like a million times go, man, I thought that looked bad, but I really liked it. So I come out and say I liked it. And sometimes, man, I thought that movie looked really good and it sucked. And I come out and I say that it sucked. But thing is, a lot of movie critics, particularly the ones on Rotten Tomatoes, they go to the movies whether they look like movies that are appealing to them or not. So they see everything. Audiences generally go to the movies that they are already predisposed to enjoying. For example, this is just an extremist situation, but Avengers Endgame. People are kind of people who aren't into comic book movies aren't going to go see Avengers Endgame. I mean, it's such a big culture phenomenon. That might be a bad example, but you get my point, right? It's generally people who are into comic book movies that are going to go see this comic book movie or that comic book movie. It's people who are into skateboarding that are going to go and watch this skateboarding movie. It's people who are into Adam Sandler comedies that are going to go see that Adam Sandler comedy. And so there's a pre-instilled disbalance, if you will, with, yeah, of course, the people who saw that movie liked it because it's a movie about this, and only people who are into that are going to go and see it. Whereas film critics, whether they're into that thing or not, they go see it and kind of give their opinions on that. So there's a lot of different reasons why. And the fact that audience scores can be manipulated so easily and so quickly and have been manipulated so easily and quickly, that's why they only count, for now, that's why they only count critic scores. Because it's just impartial. They don't care whether a movie does well or not. They don't care if a movie sucks. They don't care if a movie's great. They just go to watch it, regardless if it's a movie that appeals to them or not, and they're just going to say what they think about it. And 95% of the time, it's usually pretty much in line with what the audience scores are. And sometimes, every once in a while, they're completely out of whack. But yeah, that's why they go with that. Plus, I mean, I would rather hear the score, me personally. I can only speak for myself. I would rather hear the score of a movie from somebody who saw 50 to 150 movies this year, rather than the scores of somebody who are going to see 4 movies this year. You know what I mean? So, like, here's a great example. That one year MTV Movie Awards where, like, Twilight was nominated for Best Picture. Why? Because the MTV Movie Awards were based on fan votes. And you had all these millions of votes being cast by these kids who saw maybe 4 movies that year, right? Kids who never saw the best movies of the year, but they're big Twilight fans, so they went to go see Twilight, so they're all voting Twilight. Twilight's the best movie of the year, even though they only saw 4 movies this year. So I don't trust that. I don't want that. If I'm going to get anybody's opinion on something, what I would rather hear somebody who's going to watch 50 to 150 movies this year. They may have the same opinions as me. They may have opposite opinions than me, but I'd rather hear it from them. So I think that's why you see marketing use that more. And by the way, in as much that we constantly hear, oh, people don't listen to film critics. Oh, they absolutely do. They absolutely do. Whether they should or shouldn't, and how much they should and how much they shouldn't, that's up for debate. But all the studios know that people do. And that's why it's always going to be used a lot in the marketing. So, but I think we're also going to see an evolution. I think we're going to see an evolution over the next couple of years. I think as bodies like Rotten Tomatoes refine and get better at how to make their audience scores more reflective of reality, I think in the next few years, we'll start to see audience scores on Rotten Tomatoes being leveraged a little bit more in the marketing as well. So it needs a little bit more refining. They're certainly heading in the right direction. It needs a little bit more of a better system to get a more accurate picture. But once they do, I think you're going to start seeing like audience scores on Rotten Tomatoes become a little bit more used in the marketing. Not IMDb, not any of that kind of stuff where people don't even have to see the movie to register a vote, but I think that's going to lead to some stuff moving forward. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on it. All right, Sully writes, if John Cena doesn't join the family and then in F10 we don't get a Cena versus The Rock fight, then what are we even doing? Then what are we even doing here? That's exactly what listen, I think that's what a lot of people are now hoping to see. They want to see The Rock versus John Cena. Now, these people who are into wrestling, they want to see The Rock versus John Cena. But I mean, if he's part of the family, Hobbs is part of the family too now. So why are they fighting? Who knows? Maybe he's still the villain. I mean, that's what Rob was mentioning, right? The one argument that John Cena is still the villain by the end of the movie and still alive is to set up in F10 that he and The Rock can fight. I mean, that's just marketing gold. That pays for itself. That prints money. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, Sully. All right, Kara Black writes, do you feel last night's game was a top 10 Super Bowl? I do. Maybe not top 5, but yeah, to me, it's a top 10 Super Bowl. I just thought you had all those lead changes. You know, San Francisco comes out quick, then Kansas City goes up by 10, and then all of a sudden San Francisco's up by 10, and then it comes down, and then back and forth, it comes down to the last possession of the game. And you just can't ask for anything better. You just can't ask for any better. It was a great, thrilling, back and forth game. I just had a lot of fun. Despite the fact that my Patriots were not in it, it was a thoroughly enjoyable game. I had a great time with it, Kara. All right, Mandalorian of Gondor writes, hey, John, I think John Cena's character has been in the past 8 films, but we've just never seen him. You're a little bit late. Somebody got to it before you, Mandalorian. Also, what was your favorite Super Bowl commercial? I'm in between Walmart and sci-fi film references galore, and it's the Jason Momoa ad. That Jason Momoa ad killed me. Like as he's coming in, he's taking off his boots and relaxing, putting down his keys, and all of a sudden he pulls off his arm and like, what the hell is happening? And he's sitting there, and then him doing the benching at the end with Lisa Bonet there. That commercial to me killed me. Absolutely killed me. I thought it was the best commercial of the Super Bowl this year. And yeah, that's just my opinion on that, but I love that one. Walmart ad was great. That was really good, but that Jason Momoa spot was the best one. All right, Mandalorian of Gondor also writes, hey, John, did you hear the passing of Bosk actor Alan Harris? I did. Very sad. Also, I'd like your advice. If you could go to Paley Fest, like I am, and see the cast and crew of The Boys or The Mandalorian, which would you do and why? Thanks. Keep up the great work. I would go to the one with The Boys. Mostly because, like, The Mandalorian, it's like 1 or 2 or 3 actors, but with The Boys, like that's a big ensemble cast. So if I could go to one, and Paley Fest is always a lot of fun. If I had to pick between one of those two, I'm not saying I like The Boys more than The Mandalorian, although maybe I do like The Boys more than Mandalorian. I like them both very, very much. But just because of the huge ensemble cast nature of The Boys, I think that's the one I'm going to. If I had to pick one. I would like to go to both, but if I had to pick one, that's what I'm picking. All right. Ari A writes, hey guys, I used to rewatch the MCU movies all the time. Not all, but most. I noticed that after Endgame, I am not watching anymore, and moreover, I don't feel like watching. Do you guys feel the same? Have you rewatched any MCU movies since Endgame? Thanks. All right, thanks for writing that in, Ari. I have rewatched 1 or 2 MCU movies, but not on the same thing. But I think, Ari, what you're talking about speaks to a bigger issue that I've brought up a couple of times, which is I just feel like since Endgame, I feel like, and this certainly isn't speaking for everybody, but I feel like there's a lot of people out there who are kind of feeling like the MCU is done. Not that they're saying, oh, the MCU is terrible. Now they're done. They're over. They can't. That's not what I mean. I mean, like, it feels like, I feel like in the audience's mind, it's like the chapter's been closed. Endgame was the ending of the MCU in many ways, in some kind of subconscious way in a lot of people's heads. And I am just not feeling the buzz for Black Widow. Although I've liked a couple of the trailers. I'm more interested in Black Widow than I thought I would be. But I'm not feeling that MCU movie buzz that we normally feel when a new MCU movie's coming out. And all I can put my finger on is the fact that Endgame just really did feel like the conclusion. So it's going to be very interesting to see. And I think your experience, Ari, like saying, I don't even feel like going back and rewatching the movies anymore, because I think there's a subconscious level that your head is telling you that's done now. It's over now. So it's one of the things I'm very fascinated to see is how does the MCU navigate these post-Endgame waters? It's going to be interesting to see. And can they recapture all that enthusiasm and all that energy that the MCU has always carried with it? Maybe yes, maybe no. I mean, never bet against Kevin Feige, but it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see. And I bet, Ari, that you're not the only guy experiencing that. Okay, we move on now. Bullet 1510 writes, looks like Loki is a prisoner of the Time Variance Authority. I was talking about that a little bit earlier. So that explains the going through time thing. Either he escapes with one of their time devices and is on the run, or he's forced to go through time completing TVA missions, which is a possibility. I mean, it could be one of these things that, like, we've captured you, now you work with us. You're now an agent of the TVA, even though he's an agent of chaos. It's possible. It's possible. Maybe that Loki's been running around causing havoc to the various timelines and multiverses, and the TVA just finally caught him. Maybe now he works for them or he's on the run for them. I think that's a really good guess at that point, because that's kind of where my head is at too. Still 1,000 other possibilities, Bullet. Totally 1,000 other possibilities, but I think that's a pretty good one. All right, Nosferatu writes, Gaston, winner of no Bell Prize. Get it? That's a Beauty and the Beast joke. Gaston, Bell, he wanted Bell, couldn't get her, so he has no Bell Prize. Okay, Nosferatu. All right, Sully writes, 1 of 4. Theory, Black Widow movie in 2024. Is Widow going through time to stop her past self from doing evil, wipe red from her ledger from Avengers 1, and Taskmaster is the current day Widow? No. I mean, hell, Sully, that is some pretty creative line drive. That's pretty creative. I like that. Well done. But I don't see that being the case. I don't think they're going to have her running through time and all that kind of stuff. I don't see them doing that. I think this is truly just a prequel story whose events will shed different and new light on the events of the MCU that we've had so far. But I don't see them doing a lot of retconning or time jumping and all that kind of stuff. I don't see them doing that. So again, some really creative thinking in there. I like the way you're thinking. I just don't see that being what they're doing. I think this is a straightforward spy thriller set back in that era when she's going through all that kind of stuff, and the events and the revelations that we're going to get in this movie will shed new or different perspectives on the MCU as a whole. But I think that's where I don't think we're going to see a Black Widow time jumping and all that. I don't think that's where they're going to go. But if it does happen, your theories will be the first thing I think about. Your theories will be the first thing I think about if it does actually happen in the movie. All right, Bullet 1510 writes, how many sitcom sets did you recognize in the WandaVision Marvel TV spot? A number of them. Leave It to Beaver, Brady Bunch. What was another one of them? My Three Sons, I think, was one of them. Anyway, I definitely recognize the Brady Bunch. However, ABC also owns Ozzie and Harriet, Bewitched could have been one of them too, yeah. Full House, Roseanne, etc. And the Fox ones like Married with Children. So, that was all of them. Yeah, listen, we've heard that this Wanda show was going to be like wild, right? Remember, we only saw about 15 seconds of WandaVision. It's a 30-second trailer. We saw about 15 seconds of Wanda, about 7 or 8 seconds of Winter Soldier, about 6-7 seconds of Loki. So I don't want to base too many theories on what we saw in 15 seconds of footage. But it is weird, man. It's weird. And that's what they've been promising us. It's going to be totally psychedelic. It's going to be totally weird. And what I'm seeing here is absolutely weird, because we also, it's not just in the time periods of the shows. We also then see a modern Wanda face to face with a black and white Vision. So is it a mental break? Is it something else? I mean, there's so many different theories can come up from that whole thing, Bullet, and the different television shows just kind of contributed to that whole, like, oh my God, what is this we're seeing? It's totally nuts. And I dug it. I dug what we saw, but again, I don't want to read too much into something that we only saw a few seconds of. All right, we only got a couple more minutes here, guys, so I'm going to go through as many as I can really quickly. No writes, I like Fast and Furious 1 through 6, but after watching Furious 7 and Hobbs and Shaw, I've officially tapped out of this franchise. It's just become so stupid. I thought F9 trailer was awful. Hey, listen, I was not a fan of 1 through 3. Not a fan. I don't like Fast and Furious 1. It's just a blatant Point Break ripoff, point by point. I didn't think 2 was good. I didn't think 3 was good. I know some people like Tokyo Drift like Rob does, but I just didn't like Tokyo Drift. It wasn't until number 4 that I started to get into it. 7, I really enjoyed. 8, I enjoyed. Yeah, a little bit of eye rolling in 8, but I enjoyed it. I still enjoyed it. Hobbs and Shaw I had a lot of fun with, but is this, no pun intended, is this franchise running out of gas? I don't know. I mean, that's part of the reason why they're constantly changing the rules of reality and logic to keep pushing it, right? The law of diminishing returns. So I guess so. It's going to be really neat to see what happens with this one. Do people respond to this one or do they not? Because again, I love the 1 minute preview. The 1 minute preview I thought was genius. It got me so excited for the movie. I'm a little mixed on the trailer. So you're not alone. No, you're not alone. All right. 50 Shades writes, "Hey, John, Chiefs for the win. Quick update on my hair treatment. Unfortunately, it didn't work." Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, man. Guess I'll just have to deal with being bald. Thoughts? Well, giving my thoughts on male baldness is really not what this show is about. We're not here to talk about that. But it does suck that you went in to get something done and it doesn't work. And I'm sorry to hear about that, man. That's too bad. And yes, Chiefs, congratulations to them on a great win. All right, Jason O'Connor writes, thoughts on the BAFTAs and Joaquin Phoenix's win? Well, we talked about that a little bit earlier in the show. Again, it was totally expected, right? 1917 won Best Picture, Sam Mendes won Best Director, Joaquin Phoenix won Best Actor, Brad Pitt won Best Supporting, Laura Dern won Best Supporting Actress, Renee Zellweger wins Best Actress. I mean, everything is going according to plan and to script. So no big surprises, but again, I mean, some really, really deserving winners highlighting just how good this year has been. All right, Edward Wells writes, saw the shoe scene, not a movie I can watch again knowing what's going to happen. Oh, I know what you're talking about. This is, of course, in Jojo Rabbit. Again, you guys heard me say it 1,000 times. To me, it is the #1 movie of the year. Jojo Rabbit is the best movie of the year, in my opinion. I think 1917 is going to win. And hey, it's a fabulous, fabulous movie. No complaints for me that it's going to beat Jojo Rabbit. But yeah, man, to me, Jojo Rabbit and that shoe scene is so powerful. And I totally get what you're saying. Because if you've seen the movie, you know what he's talking about. I totally get where you're saying, man, I just can't watch it again, though. I totally get it, man. I totally get it. All right. Juicy Smoulier, Justice for Juicy, writes, top 10 of 2019. Number 10, Dolomite. Number 9, Honey Boy. Number 8, Ford v Ferrari. Number 7, John Wick Chapter 3. Number 6, Endgame. Number 5, Jojo Rabbit. Number 4, Uncut Gems. Number 3, 1917. Number 2, Parasite. And number 1, Joker. Honorable mention, 2, Shazam. I loved Shazam. Marriage Story. Spider-Man. Booksmart. Also, will Tyrese invite you to the F9 and Morbius premieres? I don't know. Maybe he will. Maybe he will. You know what? I saw his film. I don't know if I told you guys this or not. I saw his film Black or Blue. And honestly, it was pretty good. Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. And you guys, he had been messaging me and I just kind of just ignored them. But I decided to reach out and I wrote to him and I said, you know what? I saw Black and Blue and I got to tell you, man, it was actually pretty good, man. I liked it. I told him that I liked it. So he wrote back and said he appreciated it. So, I mean, that's all good. But no, I highly doubt that Tyrese is going to be inviting me to be his guest to either of those movies, but I'm looking forward to both of them. Clearly, I'm looking forward to Morbius. I mean, Morbius, I'm very excited about. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, Josh J writes, thoughts on psychopath and abuser Amber Heard. I'm not going to get into that nonsense, except to say nothing has changed. I don't know Amber Heard, and I don't know Johnny Depp. I do know that there are witnesses and pictures that support Amber Heard saying that she got abused by Johnny Depp. I do know that there's stuff to suggest that it was a mutually abusive situation. But look, bottom line is, I don't know either of these people. I don't know what's true. Neither do you. You and I are both just mindless drones seeing what the media is feeding us about this. That's all you and I are. So I don't know. So I have no opinion. Don't care. I mean, obviously I care, but it's outside of the purview. Like celebrity gossip shit is outside of the purview of what we do here. All I do know is that as a fan that, yeah, I know there were witnesses and pictures showing this. I know there's audio recordings showing this. Look, bottom line, it just looked like this was a really bad relationship. That's all I know. And anybody else who wants to draw a line in the sand and whose side they're on, you can do that, but just admit you don't actually know anything. Neither do I, and that's why I'm just, hey, listen, I'll wait for a court case to go through and I'll let them actually see all the evidence, actually hear all the evidence, everything that you and I do and do not see. So yeah, I'm just staying out of it. Jay Master writes, hey, John, what a great and amazing halftime show at the Super Bowl. It really was. It was incredible. Shakira and J-Lo really know how to bring it. And let's not forget how incredible J-Lo's daughter, Emmy, was on stage singing with her mom. Yeah, I didn't even know until afterwards that was her daughter. And she was great. She was great. It was I wish I had known that as I was watching it live, because I think it would have made it even a little bit more special. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, Shakira, first of all, guys, look, J-Lo is 50. She's 50. Shakira is 43 years old. To combine those two are 93. Don't ever think anything is too late for you to do, because they brought the house down. Look, I'm not the world's biggest J-Lo fan, nor am I the world's biggest Shakira fan, but holy crap, they put on a hell of a show. It was a great halftime show, and I would have been cool if they just kept going for another half hour and just made it an extra long halftime. But yeah, it was a great halftime show, J-Master. All right, Juna writes, greetings from Finland. Hey, some of the best hockey players in the world, dude, come from Finland. Mad respect. Did you see the MCU Disney Plus spot? Yes, we did. We talked about it a little bit earlier. I thought it looked cool and can't wait for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. WandaVision stuff was also interesting. What did you think of it, and which series are you looking forward to the most? Well, we already talked about what we thought about the spot earlier, but the one I am looking forward to most is Falcon and Winter Soldier. Obviously, I'm super stoked for Loki because I love Tom Hiddleston in that role. This WandaVision thing looks batshit crazy, which I think is a good thing, and I can't wait to see it. But the one I'm really, really stoked to see is probably the most is Falcon and Winter Soldier. That's the one. It's got a Winter Soldier kind of, by that I mean the movie Captain America and the Winter Soldier. It's got that kind of a vibe to it. I think Bucky looks badass. Like Bucky looks like a guy who's had it up to here with this crap. And what that crap is, I don't know. But yeah, that's the one I think I'm most looking forward to all of them, but I think that's one I am most looking forward to. All right, Sam writes, my top 10, Winter Soldier, number 9, Lion King, the original, number 8, La La Land, number 7, Knives Out, number 6, The Prestige, number 5, Spider-Verse, oh God, I love that movie, number 4, Whiplash, number 3, 1917, number 2, The Dark Knight, number 1, Inception. I've only recently gotten into movies hardcore, and you're the main reason. Oh, dude, thank you. That honestly to me is like the highest compliment you can pay. So thank you so much for saying that. Like I hope that through me and Rob and all the other film fan community fans who are here in the live chat and leaving comments, my main hope is that we as a community get other people turned on to movies. And the fact that you are getting more into movies and turned on to movies because of all the community members here on the channel, that is the most awesome thing in the world to me. So thank you for sharing that, dude. That was really nice, and it makes me excited. And just keep watching, man. So many great films to see. Just keep watching, Sam. Thanks for sharing that. All right, last couple of questions we got time here to cover today, guys. Jesse writes, me watching the F9 trailer. Magnet plane catches car. Man, it can't get much dumber than this. And then Dom driving towards a down rope bridge. Hold my beer. Yeah. Listen. Maybe once I'm watching the movie and I get the context and what it is they're doing, maybe that'll just become okay. Just like in Hobbs and Shaw, Cyborg Idris Elba. Once my brain wrapped around what it is they're trying to do and just that's the context of the movie, then I was able to just buy into it and go, okay, that's what it is. Let's just go with it. And then I enjoyed it. Maybe that'll be the same. But I am with you, Jesse. When I saw that in the trailer, I'm like, oh God, really? Like, come on, seriously? But hey, we'll see. We'll see. I ended up really enjoying Hobbs and Shaw. Maybe the same thing will happen with Fast 9. All right. Murray Reich writes, congrats to Andy Reid for a well-deserved Super Bowl win. He's one of the best coaches running today. I hope he gets into the Hall of Fame. Oh, he'll be in the Hall of Fame. Andy Reid, even without that win. Like, I remember me and some buddies were talking about that before, Murray, that do you think Andy Reid gets in the Hall of Fame if he never gets a ring? And I've always believed he will be in the Hall of Fame even without a ring. He's just too good. And so many of his proteges have gone on to be head coaches in the league. Like, he's just had too big of an influence and just been too successful of a coach in the NFL to not be in there. I think winning that Super Bowl ring just solidifies that. I think it was already pretty much a sure thing, but getting that Super Bowl ring makes his resume irrefutable. You can't keep him out of Canton. You cannot keep him out of the Hall of Fame. You just can't. I think he was going to be in anyway, but now with the ring, you just can't keep him out. All right, Raymond Verrata writes, congrats to Joaquin Phoenix on his BAFTA win. Absolutely. Throughout the award season, he has learned to use his acceptance speeches as a way to highlight causes like the Golden Globes going vegan or BAFTAs needing more diversity. I applaud actors like him on giving back. Yeah, see, here's the thing. There are some people who are like, actors shouldn't talk about things. Why? The actors are people too. And if they've got something that's important to them or they think is an important issue and they get lucky enough to have that type of a platform, then use it. Go ahead. It doesn't bother me. If I don't like what they're saying, then I can just tune it out. I don't see any reason in crying over a celebrity wanting to use their platform to say something that's important to them. Because if I don't like it, okay, I can just tune it out. That's fine. It's no big deal. I don't get why people cry and moan and whine. Oh, you're saying things I don't agree with. Well, so what? Then just tune it out. And then go on and watch, the next part of the show, whatever. So it's fine. It's fine. I am not, nor will I ever be a vegan, so I can just tune out when he wants to talk about being a vegan. That's okay. But I'm not going to poo-poo on his right or ability as an individual like you, an individual like me, but he's been lucky enough to be given a platform. If he wants to talk about something that's important to him, go for it. Talk about something that's important to you. All right. 50 Shades writes, Kevin Conroy is the best Batman in my opinion, not because he played him in the longest, but because he truly understood that Bruce Wayne is the mask and Batman is the real thing, and he never broke character, unlike Ben Affleck in Justice League. Even the decision that Batman and Bruce Wayne have different voices came from him. No. Michael Keaton did that first. Michael Keaton did a different Batman voice than his regular voice, so that came first. He introduced that idea. No, he didn't. It wasn't in any other Batman version before. Yeah, Michael Keaton did it. Like, not as drastically different as Christian Bale did it. But you can tell, just watch the opening scene of Batman, right? When he's got the thug after stealing the purse and goes, I want you to tell your friends about me. Who are you? I'm Batman. But that's not the way he spoke as Bruce Wayne. I mean, so that was around before then. So let's just be clear about that. The idea of speaking with different voices, I mean, it's not something that Adam West ever did, but Michael Keaton definitely did do it in his Batman movie. But no, I disagree with you. Again, to me, listen, I liked that Batman very much. I liked that animated Batman show and Kevin Conroy doing the voice. I liked it very much. But, and if you've watched me for any period of time, you know I have the world of respect for voice actors and what they do. I think it's a very specific, unique skill that they have. And it frustrates me that a lot of animated movies just go and get big celebrities who are not nearly as good as trained voice actors, as full-time voice actors. But anyway, that's all besides the point. The reality is, though, no, I can never consider him the best actor playing Batman because he only does 50% of it. When it's not your physical performance, like you look at one of the greatest performances of all time, Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood. The first big part of that movie, there's not even any dialogue. And his performance is incredible without dialogue. Because the physical performance is half of it. It's full half of it. I mean, I would even argue, you've heard me make this argument before. I think one of the greatest acted scenes in comic book movie history, besides like Thor talking to Rocket about, what if I'm wrong? Well, then what else do I have left to lose? That was great too. But one of the greatest acted scenes, I believe, in comic book movie history is one without words. And it's the opening of Batman versus Superman as Ben Affleck gets the little girl and beholding the destruction and the death and all that kind of stuff around him as a result of the battle between the Kryptonians and Superman. And then the camera from above and having Ben Affleck look up to the sky and everything in the facial, the way his shoulders were, everything about him physically was communicating. It was one of the best acted scenes in comic book movie history, and there was no dialogue. You cannot separate out at minimum half the performance, which is the physicality of it, and what the character is portraying and communicating to the audience through themselves physically. You can't take half of that out and then say it's as good as all the other stuff. It's not. So while I like Kevin Conroy's voice as Batman in the animated series very much, and I love that show, And maybe that iteration of Batman, maybe that animated character of Batman might be your favorite character. But as far as the best actor portraying them, you just can't say it's the person who only did half the job. You just can't say it's the person who only did half the job. So, I mean, that's my opinion. That's how I see it, and that's just kind of where I'm at on that. All right. Let's see. Murray Reich writes, and this is the final question we'll take today, guys. And then all the rest of the questions will get picked up on a companion video a little bit later. Murray Reich writes, wow, the quantum realm really affected the Fast and Furious franchise a lot after Endgame. Boo, I guess the Hulk snapped Han back into reality. I mean, it's all part of the plan, man. Universal's crossing over with Disney. Fast and Furious is joining the MCU world. It's all mayhem now. All absolute mayhem, but that's what brought him back. All right, guys. Listen, for everybody else, from 50 Shades, Jesse, Good Italian Kid, Casinema, everybody else all the way up, do not worry. All your questions that got sent in are going to be answered today in a video, on a companion video that I'm going to do a little bit later today. So just keep your eyes open for it. All your questions are going to get answered. I want to thank, of course, the wonderful Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett for being here on the show. It's always good to have him back. And I want to thank all of you guys just for being here and making this a part of your day and being a part of the film fan community. And a special thank you to all of you guys who did send in questions, not just because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but also because you supported the channel while you were doing it. And all of us here on the John Campea YouTube channel, myself, Aaron, Robert, Ray, Jonathan, everybody else, all of us, thank you for supporting the channel on that level, guys. And once again, keep your guys' eyes open for the companion video a little bit later. And of course, the John Campea Show returns again tomorrow with me and Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Obviously, Hamilton's going to be one of the things. We're going to have a whole bunch of other stuff to talk about as well. While you're here, guys, click on that subscribe button and do me a favor. If you want to help the channel out, click the thumbs up on this video. You don't have to have agreed with everything that we say, but if you like these types of conversations, these types of videos, click that thumbs up button and jump on down to the comment section below and leave your comments there. That will do it for me for now, guys. Thank you so much for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.